We really need to pick up this pace. We are way behind in terms of raising money to keep this network going. We got some great premiums, things that you can get and give to your conservative neighbors and friends and relatives. A sticker you can put on their car or front. Well, maybe not, but you can get creative, right? There's a lot that can be done. And this great book, Call to Back, We the People, A Call to Take Back America, that I wrote years ago, and it's just absolutely totally relevant today. It's just an amazing book on politics and the nature and the history of American politics. Goes all the way back to the Jefferson Adams debacle from Adams' point of view. And get a jump on Christmas, or on the holidays, whatever they may be for you. It's important that we all pitch in right now. I'm dancing my heart out here for Free Speech TV, and do so every day. And if you could help out by calling 877-378-8669 and making a contribution, it would be so appreciated. It is so important that we keep this network on the air. We're in the neighborhood of hitting half of what we needed to be at for this. We're coming up on a full week here today. And I don't know how to say it other than that. It's really important to keep Free Speech TV going. I know it's important to me. I'm assuming it's important to you. And I think, frankly, it's important to the future of our country. I look at how, for example, in part, Bernie Sanders is a brilliant politician, but in part, his being on this program every Friday for 11 years introduced him to America in a way that I believe, and I've had people around Bernie tell me, really jump-started things, so that when he went out in the field in 2015, 2016, wherever he went, there were people who were going, brunch with Bernie. They recognized him. Our program has an impact in national politics. And I believe in local politics as well. All the people who've called in and said, I decided to run for city council or for just a position in the party as a result of watching your program. I didn't even know those things were available. I didn't know that, what a precinct committee person is and things like that. We're doing some good stuff here, and we need your help to do it. Amy Goodman is doing good stuff, reporting on the news. There's a bunch of great programs on Free Speech TV. And all of this is at risk if we can't hit our goals for this fund drive. And that's a serious concern. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and get one of these extraordinary goodies that you can, as I said, share with your conservative friends, neighbors, and relatives. With a $30 gift, you get the Free Speech TV mini kit. That's the vote sticker and the Free Speech TV button. With a $72 gift, you get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. An illustrated, you could call it a comic book, but it's not funny stuff. It's history. And it's not for kids. Kids can read it and get it and find it interesting, but it's really a book for adults. And great coffee table book, great bathroom book. It's divided into chapters that all each one stands alone, and they're easy to read, and I think you'll find it fascinating. I think you'll love it. It's one of my favorites. With a $120 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech t-shirt kit. That is the sticker and the button, plus the Vote Free Speech TV dark gray t-shirt. These, by the way, I don't know if you've noticed over the years, but these things become collector's items. So something to think about. That's with a $120 gift. With a $240 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hoodie. These are, by the way, the clothes, Free Speech TV hoodie and the t-shirt, all, unlike the Trump paraphernalia, all made in the United States. And the hoodie kit is with a $240 gift, which can be $20 a month for a year. And you get the zip-up hoodie, and you get the bumpers, or the sticker and the button. With a $360 gift, that's $30 a month for a year, or $360 one time. You get the Vote Our Future pack, and that includes the sweatshirt and the t-shirt and the button and the sticker. That's with $30 a month or $360. And with $480, you get all that stuff, the T-shirt, the hoodie, the bumper sticker, or the sticker. I don't think it's quite the size of a bumper sticker, but the sticker and on the button. Plus, you get a copy of my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. That's with $480 or $40 a month for a year. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and we'll take you to lunch. And you can bring along a spouse or significant other. I think we have tomorrow, I was just told we have about a dozen people showing up, and I'm not sure if that's 6 people plus spouses and partners, or if there's a few people who come alone, and there's a few people who bring someone with them. So we probably got 8 or 10 donors tomorrow coming by. I'm looking forward to it. And if you're one of them, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. So anyhow, the number 877-378-8669. Please call now. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
A different type of stick was used. Life.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you. A very interesting little news tip. At 2 a.m. this morning, hundreds of Twitter accounts suddenly woke up and started tweeting the exact identical same pro-Ted Cruz statement about how Beto O'Rourke doesn't believe in standing for the flag or some sort of nonsense like that. It's bizarre. Anyhow, yesterday, Congressman Pocan was not available to be with us, but today we're going to pick it up and run with it. It's Middays with Mark Thursday edition here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Congressman Pocan, of course, the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, represents Wisconsin in the U.S. House of Representatives. His website, pocan.house.gov. You can tweet him at Rep Mark Pocan. And our telephone number, he'll be with us for the hour, taking your calls on whatever topic you'd like to bring up. Our call-in number, 202-808-9925. Congressman, welcome back to the program.
Hey, thanks, Tom. Glad to be here.
It is so great to have you with us. And are you drinking tea this week, too?
No.
Okay. It's so funny. Last week, people can, we're simulcast on television, and some people thought, is that whiskey he's drinking? No, it's just, tea. Okay.
Actually, by Wisconsin standards, it probably would be brandy.
Oh, really? Okay. But it wasn't.
No.
Right. Brett Kavanaugh. It looks like Susan Collins maybe is wavering, but that's going to require all of the Democrats to hold firm in the Senate, and I don't know what the status of that is. Do you?
No. I mean, I think there's still about close to a half a dozen people who haven't stated their opinion on the Democratic side. Susan Collins has not been especially strong on some of her earlier statements that she was going to make sure that Roe v. Wade would be upheld. Lisa Murkowski, I don't know if we are officially satisfied we have an answer on that. I know there's a heavy push right now on those two in the Republicans in the Senate. But I think part of what's interesting coming out of the last couple of weeks, and a lot of people called in on this last week, just in general on the hearings, is that it's starting to look like there may be a few instances where Mr. Kavanaugh was not exactly forthright in his testimony, and including some connections to my home state of Wisconsin. Lisa Graves, who used to be, I think, the head of the council for Senator Leahy, some of her emails somehow wound up in the hands of, it looks like, Mr. Kavanaugh, and he claimed that it never were, and some things that were hacked or illegally gotten got to him, and that's just one of several examples. So there's some push on the outside. Is this something that's impeachable? Could you impeach him as a judge now? I'm not exactly sure because this is all still pretty fresh where that's going to wind up. I do think Cory Booker has been pretty interesting and brave in continuing to release documents at the really peril potentially of the Republicans who are in charge of the Senate, but trying to make sure we get as much information to know about this nominee. But again, if Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski don't stand up for what they say they believe in, it could all be moot. But there's a lot moving on this nomination, and people should stay very, very closely involved.
Yeah, amen. Our phone lines are filling up here. We can hop right on them in just a second. One other real quick question before we get to that, though, is Donald Trump says 3,000 people didn't die in Puerto Rico, that the Democrats are just making up numbers. Say what?
I gotta say, just when I think the guy can't get any lower, he gets lower, and it really, this guy is the most truthfully challenged, not just president but elected official.
This would be like George Bush saying 3,000 people didn't die on 9/11.
Well, yeah, and what's so awful is these are American citizens. How would you like to be someone who had a family member, or neighbor, or friend die, and you're being disrespected by the president because he's living in a fantasy world that he thinks he did a good job in Puerto Rico following the hurricane? It's just incredibly disrespectful. It's incredibly dishonest. It tells you far more about the character of Donald Trump, and I'm guessing that's why there's a 14-point generic ballot advantage for Democrats over Republicans right now in Congress, because this guy is really more the liar-in-chief than the commander-in-chief, and people who don't even follow politics are kind of tired of it. But I thought that was especially disrespectful and about as low as you can get to disrespect so many people who died because of the hurricane.
Yeah. Amen. Let's pick up some phone calls here. Russ in Hickory Oaks, Illinois. You're on the air with Congressman Mark Pocan.
Hi, yes. Thank you for taking my call, Mr. Pocan. Now that they're trying to plug the first tax cut with $1.7 trillion of our money, what is this thing I'm hearing? A new one, $500 billion, $1 trillion in new tax cuts? Because I tell you what, between this guy going on the Supreme Court and these tax cuts, these Republicans, they don't know when to stop. And we don't blame Congress enough for this. Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan have been getting a free ride. We're blaming Donald Trump for everything. Well, how much is this new tax cuts going to cost us?
Yeah, Russ, so first of all, you bring up an excellent point, which is let's remember where the tax cuts came from. They came from the gut, the inner being of Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. But Paul Ryan, this is all he's ever wanted to do in Congress is lower taxes for really, really rich people and corporations, and he was able to get that done. It's the one thing they did this session in all the other ineptitude. It's not just Donald Trump. I mean, this is the Republicans in the House and the Senate have passed a tax bill last November that not only 83% of the money goes to the top 1% in a decade, but takes away the individual mandate and other things that are going to make everyone's health insurance premiums go up in October probably between 8 and 30%. So everyone's going to see a big spike because of that tax bill. So that was an awful, awful thing they did for all the special interests in this town. Paul Ryan will be rewarded mightily when he leaves Congress, I can guarantee, for this. But it's not just Donald Trump. You're right, Russ. So what they're doing is they're trying to do a tax bill 2.0. That's why they had us come out literally for 24 hours. Now we're going to finish up today because of the storms, but they still had us come out because they had to get this moving because they're trying to now make permanent all the tax cuts, which, again, will add just even more to the deficit. So these people have nothing in mind for working people in this country. This is more of their effort to take care of the donor class, the Mar-a-Lago class, and we should make sure we hold them all accountable for it.
Joe in Petersburg, West Virginia. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yes, Congressman, I was just wondering if one time down the road, somehow or another, we gain the Congress and the Senate and also the President, instead of worrying about the Supreme Court, why don't we just elect 3 more Supreme Court judges in and make them all progressive? Thank you.
Pack the court when we get power.
Yeah, I've heard people put that idea out there. I've heard some other ideas also put out there. I think, unfortunately, the politics that's happened around the Supreme Court has gone in a very awful direction, from holding up President Obama's pick for nearly a year to the point that he couldn't get a pick as a sitting president, to now, putting someone out and not sharing all the documentation we need to know so you can have an actual fair hearing. The politicization of this by the Republicans has taken it to a really bad level because we need separate institutions. We need checks and balances, and right now they're making it so that it's more of a seamless transition between the three. Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell don't stand up to the president. Now they're going to stack the court. At what point do you not have what our founders intended? And I think we're getting dangerously close to that.
Andy in Grand Rapids, Michigan, listening on our Pacifica affiliate, WPRR. You are on the air with Congressman Mark Pocan.
Hey, Congressman. Hey, I got a question. If these Republicans are voting for Kavanaugh, is that kind of a vote for dictatorship?
Well, I think, Andy, what I just mentioned does, hold true. I mean, if they're distorting this process to not allowing legitimate picks from previous presidents, now we've got a pick. They're not sharing enough information because you don't have the full picture and the full background of the individual. And just the idea that the president is under so much investigation, should you be moving forward with something when all of his best friends have either been indicted or given immunity, certainly puts this all into question, and I think very fairly into question by the American people. But we need to do something to make sure that this doesn't continue, and we need to speak out more on Kavanaugh, because I don't think we've heard as much as we did on health care.
There you go. Congressman Mark Pocan with us for the hour. It's Middays with Mark on the Thom Hartmann Program, taking your calls, 202-808-9925, and it's coming up on 16 minutes past the hour. Stick around. We'll be right back with more of your calls for Congressman Pocan.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
He is the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, represents the state of Wisconsin, pocan.house.gov. You can tweet him at Rep. Mark Pocan. And welcome back. Congressman Pocan still with us. And let's see here. Norma in Montgomery, Alabama. You are on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hi, Dr. Thom. Congressman Pocan, when they had the resolution, the House Budget Committee passed the resolution to take the money out of Medicare, out of Medicaid, and the $60 billion surplus from Social Security. What bill did this House resolution get attached to? It needs a home. Where did it go?
Norma, I don't know that offhand. I don't have that answer. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, how did Paul Ryan find a $60 billion surplus in Social Security to give to other countries rather than give it to we, the people?
Well, I don't think he gave it to other countries. The problem is all they've been doing is ballooning the deficit for things like their tax bill. I mean, in fact, just the opposite. One of, I think, the dangerous things that we're seeing under this administration is them taking away funds, for example, in the Middle East that traditionally have also gone to Palestine, and now they're taking those back. I mean, we're using our international funds in a very, I think, divisive way, which is not a surprise from this White House. But certainly, Paul's not doing anything extra for anyone, but other than the wealthy through his tax bills, and that's where we've been really blowing these big holes in the budget.
Tom in Raleigh, North Carolina. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Thank you for taking my call, Tom. And let me just ask you a question real quick. Everybody's complaining that Donald Trump is lying about that $3,000 number down in Puerto Rico. When the trade centers were hit, we got a number. We got a number within a month. We got a number. When a hurricane happens or a tornado happens, we got a number. These people can't even manage 20,000 bottles of water, cases of water. They come up with a number a year later. How do you know what the total? They don't give an explanation of what the number is from. A year later, next year it'll be 6,000 people. Is it going to be 6,000 people when they give a report out next year? And Donald Trump, he missed it again. That 64 number was given by Puerto Rico, not Donald Trump. He's just reporting what they gave.
Congressman?
Yeah. So Tom, in your fantasy, the president would be giving the truthful number at 64. But according to every university that's gone down there that said the number was in the thousands, they were trying to collect the most accurate number. Don't forget, the electricity was down, water was down, far more damage than we see on the mainland here on the 48 when a hurricane hits. So, you can believe the fantasy the president's putting out there. He wants you to believe in alternative facts and fake news and all the rest. And you can be a diehard till the end. You can be part of that 35%. Or you can live in the world based in reality, which is the fact that we've been told by multiple sources, the number's in the thousands, and the official number now is almost 3,000. So, you can protect a guy who did a crappy job in dealing with a hurricane, who now wants to lie about it, or you can live in the world the rest of us do, where it's not just hearing it from Democrats or whatever. You're hearing it from every entity that's gone down there has said the number is much larger than was originally assessed because they had no way to get that number at that time.
Well, the Puerto Rican government has now embraced this almost 2,000 number, haven't they?
Yeah, the 2,975. That's the number from them. But also Harvard and other groups came down there and said the exact same thing.
Right, yeah. Or higher. I mean,
higher.
There was no communication. There was no transportation.
And it's still not a good situation down there a year later.
Amen. Congressman Pocan taking your calls. We'll be back in just a second. It's 20 minutes past the hour. Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to thomhartmann.com.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Congressman Mark Pocan on the line with us, taking your calls for the hour. Middays with Mark here. Ingrid in Corona, California. You are on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hey, Tom and Congressman Pocan, first-time caller, long-time listener. I'm calling to ask why Congress isn't moving to annul Trump. I read that article by Secretary Robert Wright, former Secretary Robert Wright, and it really seems like a good remedy for all of the evil that has been wrought under the Trump administration. And it's clear that, hopefully the Mueller investigation will show that Trump and his entourage have broken a lot of laws, and so why not just undo the whole thing? I mean, it's even more effective than impeachment or stacking stacking the Supreme Court. Why not just enact the law that we have, which is to annul him? I want to divorce this administration. I'm sick of this relationship. So that's all I have to say.
I hear you, Ingrid. I have not seen that particular piece. I'm not aware of an effective way to actually annul this, but let's remember, whatever we do takes a vote of Congress, and the Congress right now is under the majority of Paul Ryan in the House and Mitch McConnell in the Senate. So that's why I think, what many of us have been saying is, one, the Mueller investigation is doing a great job of coming up with information, and when that gets done, we're going to have some really, really great information to convince people. But the other option is, the November elections are coming up. If you don't like the way current members of Congress are handling this president, and I don't like the way the current majority is handling this president, you can change the faces of those people who represent you in Congress. So, not much is going to happen as long as Paul Ryan, or for that matter, Kevin McCarthy or Jim Jordan is in charge, or Mitch McConnell, because they're not going to allow anything to happen. I've just watched it over and over for the last couple of years. So we need to go in November and be heard via the ballot box, and then we've got lots of possibilities that go from there.
Paul in Taos, New Mexico. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hey, Tom. Congressman, thank you so much for being on here. I called with what appears to be a softball question, which I'll ask pointedly right now, and then if I may, just back it up with a little observation. The question being, what do you think the prospects of expanding the Progressive Caucus in the Congress is in this upcoming midterms. And what's behind that question is, I got to say, I admire in some fashion Republicans because they go for what they want and they go for the jugular. And I think the real problem is corporate Democrats, because this third way idea is an abject failure. And I mean, to me, the pinnacle of that failure was Hillary Clinton picking Tim Kaine as her vice president. That was like Rahm Emanuel, like all the corporate Democrats telling progressives, go screw yourself. And I think that's our problem. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Paul, so thank you for your question. And so one, I do think we're going to expand the Progressive Caucus. We have 78 members currently. There are 39 challengers we are backing across the country that are on the ballot in November. And I think we're going to have a couple, maybe more, to endorse. But that's about around 40 people that we're looking forward to trying to bring into Congress. And I think it's something like 30% of the red to blue candidates that have been, are the kind of DCCC candidates that I think they have the best chance of winning are also the candidates that we're endorsing in the Progressive Caucus. So we've got a lot of new people that are going to come in. They're going to make our caucus stronger. But I think to your point, Paul, one of the things that we've been trying to do since I become co-chair, working with Pramila Jayapal, who's our first vice chair, who's a tremendous member of Congress from the Seattle area, we're taking our nonprofit entity for the Progressive Caucus and giving it muscle. And we're going to be putting together essentially a recreation of what the old Democratic Study Group was pre-Newt Gingrich to be able to analyze bills. We're going to work with our outside partners in the progressive community, not only to take their ideas and bring them to actualization as legislation, but then when we've got progressive ideas moving forward, using their grassroots networks to put pressure on Democratic leadership to understand the progressive issues are the issues that people agree with. And we're also going to do, some serious polling at the beginning of the year, again, proving our issues. We're not your mother or father's Progressive Caucus. It has changed quite a bit, and I think it's going to continue to with a lot of the new folks coming in. But we are right now working out like crazy. We're about to flex the muscle, and we're ready to do that in January. And I think you'll be very pleased with the direction we're going.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just about to put somebody on, and then I looked up at the clock, and we've got 10 seconds. So,
there you go.
Is it your opinion that genuine progressives running are more successful than kind of milquetoast candidates?
I think we've seen that, right, in evidence this cycle. I mean, people want to believe in something. Reuters just showed us 70% of people support Medicare for all. And that's
yeah. Yeah, I really got that from watching Chris Hayes last night interviewing non-voters in Flint, Michigan. And they were saying, I didn't vote because there was nobody on the ballot who really reflected my values. I thought that was amazing. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's Middays with Mark on the Thom Hartmann Program. Congressman Mark Pocan taking your calls for the hour. We'll be right back. You can contact him at Pocan. You can tweet him at Rep. Mark Pocan. We really need to pick up this pace. We are way behind in terms of raising money to keep this network going. We got some great premiums, things that you can get and give to your conservative neighbors and friends and relatives. A sticker you can put on their car or front. Well, maybe not, but you can get creative, right? There's a lot that can be done. And this great book called Back, We the People, A Call to Take Back America, that I wrote years ago, and it's just absolutely, totally relevant today. It's just an amazing book on politics and the nature and the history of American politics. Goes all the way back to the Jefferson Adams debacle from Adams' point of view. And get a jump on Christmas, or on the holidays, whatever they may be for you. It's important that we all pitch in right now. I'm dancing my heart out here for Free Speech TV, and do so every day. And if you could help out by calling 877-378-8669 and making a contribution, it would be so appreciated. It is so important that we keep this network on the air. We're in the neighborhood of hitting half of what we needed to be at for this. We're coming up on a full week here today. And I don't know how to say it other than that. It's really important to keep Free Speech TV going. I know it's important to me. I'm assuming it's important to you. And I think, frankly, it's important to the future of our country. I look at how, for example, in part, I mean, Bernie Sanders is a brilliant politician, but in part, his being on this program every Friday for 11 years introduced him to America in a way that I believe, and I've had people around Bernie tell me, really jump-started things, so that when he went out in the field in 2015, 2016, wherever he went, there were people who were going, brunch with Bernie. They recognized him. Our program has an impact in national politics. And I believe in local politics as well. All the people who've called in and said, I decided to run for city council or for just a position in the party as a result of watching your program. I didn't even know those things were available. I didn't know that, what a precinct committee person is and things like that. We're doing some good stuff here, and we need your help to do it. Amy Goodman is doing good stuff, reporting on the news. There's a bunch of great programs on Free Speech TV. And all of this is at risk if we can't hit our goals for this fund drive. And that's a serious concern. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and get one of these extraordinary goodies that you can, as I said, share with your conservative friends, neighbors, and relatives. With a $30 gift, you get the Free Speech TV mini kit. That's the vote sticker and the Free Speech TV button. With a $72 gift, you get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. An illustrated, you could call it a comic book, but it's not funny stuff. It's history. And it's not for kids. I mean, kids can read it and get it and find it interesting, but it's really a book for adults. And, great coffee table book, great bathroom book. It's divided into chapters that all each one stands alone, and they're easy to read, and I think you'll find it fascinating. I think you'll love it. It's one of my favorites. With a $120 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech t-shirt kit. That is the sticker and the button, plus the Vote Free Speech TV dark gray t-shirt. These, by the way, I don't know if you've noticed over the years, but these things become collector's items. So something to think about. That's with a $120 gift. With a $240 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hoodie. These are, by the way, the clothes, Free Speech TV hoodie and the t-shirt, all, unlike the Trump paraphernalia, all made in the United States. And the hoodie kit is with a $240 gift, which can be $20 a month for a year. And you get the zip-up hoodie, and you get the bumpers, or the sticker and the button. With a $360 gift, that's $30 a month for a year, or $360 one time. You get the Vote Our Future pack, and that includes the sweatshirt and the t-shirt and the button and the sticker. That's with $30 a month, or $360. And with $480, you get all that stuff, the t-shirt, the hoodie, the bumper sticker, or the sticker. I don't think it's quite the size of a bumper sticker, but the sticker and on the button. Plus, you get a copy of my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. That's with $480 or $40 a month for a year. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and we'll take you to lunch. And you can bring along a spouse or significant other. I think we have tomorrow, I was just told we have about a dozen people showing up, and I'm not sure if that's 6 people plus spouses and partners, or if there's a few people who come alone, and there's a few people who bring someone with them. So we probably got 8 or 10 donors tomorrow coming by. I'm looking forward to it. And if you're one of them, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. So anyhow, the number 877-378-8669. Please call now. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. It's the Middays with Mark Thursday edition here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Congressman Mark Pocan taking your calls. Dave in Pittsburgh, California. You are on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yeah, Congressman Pocan, this is Dave out here in Pittsburgh, California. I have a question. It's kind of interesting. I read it on or saw on my computer. The internet is a wonderful tool to look at once in a while, and it's my understanding that Congress is looking at the 501c tax exempt corporations and the think tank corporations that are being, and there's a possible bill being floored or passed on the floor to take that tax exempt away from these major think tank corporations like the Cato Institution, Heritage Foundation, and stuff like that. I'm kind of curious. This is one leg of the stool they're going after. The other leg of the stool they need to go after is the possibility of taking away the corporate welfare entity of the stool. If you can take two legs of the stool away, you have a better chance of controlling and regulating these corporations. And I was just wondering how far along that possible bill is in the House. I know it's in the House about the taking away the 501c.
Okay, Dave, thank you. We'll ask Congressman Pocan.
Yeah, Dave. So I'm not familiar that there's a bill that they're actually pushing. It might be someone had an idea and they're threatening to do this for some other reason, but I have not seen that come through as a serious bill that we're anticipating coming up on the floor in the near future. We're in today, then we come in not next week, but the following week, and then the rumor is that the House, a couple weeks in October, we're supposed to be here. We may not be because they need to get their members back home campaigning. So if I hear more, I'll bring it up, but right now I'm not sure if it's something that's actually pending.
David in Greenfield, California, you're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Thank you for taking my call. I wanted to ask about the Harley-Davidson factory jobs here in the U.S. I've heard that either a couple of plants have already closed or are going to close because jobs are being outsourced to the Orient. And also Donald Trump's trade policy is possibly accelerating this policy. And if you could fill us in, that would be great.
Yeah, so, like many companies, they're always looking to reduce their costs, often at the expense of the work being done in the United States. And while there are some people argue that there was some speculation Harley was looking at doing that with the tariffs that the president's put out there without really kind of any rhyme or reason, Harley has said that now it's going to cost too much to get their product there to actually be able to sell. They may have to start producing it there to be able to sell models. So that would create a loss of jobs here in the United States so that they can open up that market in China and still be cost competitive. That's the fight. So the president, of course, as you would imagine, said, well, whatever I can do to help make sure we don't lose jobs. No, he didn't say that. He said, I'm going to start a boycott of Harley, and immediately he started attacking. So, I think the issue is if these tariffs go in place without really any plan, and they are really out there without any plan right now. I've had other companies tell me the same thing. They sell in China, and they're going to be forced to have to create the product in China because of cost restraints, because the president hasn't really thought through what he's doing. So that's what's going on with Harley. His unfortunate reaction was to attack them and say if they do that, he'll start a boycott. Again, a Wisconsin company, a U.S. company that employs a lot of people. That's just more of the total dysfunction of the trade policies of Donald Trump.
James in Lakewood, Washington, listening on our Pacifica affiliate in the Seattle area, KBCS. James, you're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Good morning, gentlemen. Hey, I was wondering if we could reenact the piracy laws for the corporations that have registered offshore. Is that possible, or has that been taken out?
James, I mean, it's an interesting suggestion. I'm not sure. I haven't heard that mentioned ever. There is this odd legal loophole that I would argue if Democrats win, we should be looking at, which is the loophole that allows people to buy a small company in Ireland or somewhere else and then become an Irish company and avoid paying taxes here. It's a legal loophole, but even I've seen business magazines rail against doing that. So I think, that's something that we should certainly clean up should we have an opportunity to, and I'd hope the president even though in his tax bill actually incentivized people to send jobs overseas for all his rhetoric. Maybe that's something we could try to make him put his rhetoric up to action. But I'm not sure about the piracy, but there are other ways we can address that.
Douglas in San Francisco, listening on AM 910. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yes, gentlemen. Right when I was wondering if they were looking into the Kavanaugh, right when I heard about those tickets. Now that seems to me, and I've seen it in my hometown, where that they're compromised and they give the tickets as like currency. You get 40 cents on the dollar. Is there any kind of way they can look into that, of him using those tickets to pay off some sort of a gambling debt?
Yeah, I couldn't answer that, Douglas, offhand. I mean, obviously, a lot of things have come up. I give credit to people asking him point blank, did you have gambling debt? And I don't know if we got a point blank answer back. But I don't have a good answer for you on that. I think most of what we're looking at is honestly his legal decisions and whether or not he's being truthful during a confirmation hearing. I think those are probably going to be the best ways if we're going to have success in trying to reject his nomination by going those routes.
Johnny in Lamarck, Texas, watching on Free Speech TV. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Good morning, Congressman Pocan. Given how grave the situation is with having a dishonest and an extremist ideologue going into the Supreme Court, I would suggest that we would need to be calling more than just Sue Collins and Lisa Murkowski. I would suggest that we at least have 2 to 4 more Republican names to that list and at least 2 to 4 Democrats. And the Democrats I would suggest, and you tell me if you disagree, would be Joe Manchin, Heidi Heitkamp, and the Louisiana senator whose name escapes me right now.
Kennedy?
Yeah, John Kennedy is the Republican from Louisiana. Anyhow, Congressman?
Yeah, the people that we're watching obviously the closest, I think there's 5, I think was what I was told just yesterday, senators who haven't indicated where they're at. Obviously Heidi Heitkamp, Joe Donnelly, Joe Manchin are a few of the folks that we're watching really closely. There's a few others. Fortunately, people like Tammy Baldwin, who's up in a competitive state, she knows exactly where her morals are and her values and why this is a bad nominee. But we do have a few other people who are still a little afraid to take a position. The key, though, is Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. If they're not coming along, this will be very difficult to stop.
Tony in Watsonville, California. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. I'm calling about these internment camps they're building for the kids and the families they're separating from. I was curious, are these just like shells for the right wing to build these and house them and charge exorbitant amounts of money just to put in shell companies and to promote the GOP process? Thank you.
Yeah, Tony, in my opinion, that's not true. Certainly there's a byproduct out of housing a bunch of people because private contractors are going to make a lot of money and at the rate of 700 something a day, which is utterly ridiculous. Clearly we're spending a lot of money on that, and that's a waste. There's far more important things I think we could be doing. But, this is really to the rhetoric. Donald Trump, by him stopping people coming to a legal point of entry under international law where you can claim amnesty and making it harder and almost impossible for them to do that. I just read another article in the last week about it, and having to come in illegally, and then he starts the process that he's done with everything else. This is him trying to justify need for the wall, but I would argue it's even more than that. I honestly don't believe Donald Trump wants a wall. I think Donald Trump wants to talk about wanting a wall. I think he wants to go to rallies and get the adoration of his fans over a wall. But when Chuck Schumer offered him money for a wall, which I didn't agree with, he didn't take yes for an answer. So this is a guy who is far more about the narcissism that he's got and getting that support from his base and really going to the most racist elements of that debate in order to feel good about himself, which is why this is such a dysfunctional White House. So it's really far more sad and worse, I think, than even your scenario of this is just done for profit. I think this is done for Donald Trump's ego, and we're ruining and affecting a lot of people's lives because of it.
It's also done as a shout out to the racists. Cambridge Analytica, before he started his campaign, said the 2 things that'll get you the biggest traction are build a wall and have Mexico pay for it and lock up Hillary Clinton. And he was skeptical about both of them, but he tried them out in rallies, and they worked really well.
Yeah.
So here we go.
No, I mean, and the whole Puerto Rico stuff too. I mean, on the deaths again. Every time I think the guy can't go any lower, he does something. And in this case, you're all these American citizens and their families that you're disrespecting because of his ego. I mean, there's an incredible amount of narcissism in this guy.
Yeah. Susan in Miami, Florida. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hi, this is Susan. My question is regarding Kavanaugh, whether or not we can just impeach him for lying, even if they appoint him to the Supreme Court. He obviously was not truthful in 2002, 2003, and just recently.
Yeah, so Susan, I think I mentioned this a little bit in the beginning, and I read an article, I think, where they said there's like 4 areas they think he potentially lied through his hearing. I think people are really taking a look at that because you've got to, don't forget, with this Congress, I don't expect Paul Ryan to suddenly rediscover his spine. He has lost it completely for the last 18 months. And Mitch McConnell, you would assume he had one at one time. So I don't really think we're going to get this Congress to act on it right now, but that doesn't mean you don't try to do it if there's something there. I think we're looking very seriously at these items right now to see how much he offered that might be in contrast. But we want more documents, and they're not giving us those documents. So there's a lot of work we're still doing. But by the actual votes on this confirmation, Collins and Murkowski are really, really key.
Yeah. And if we start impeaching Supreme Court justices for lying in their confirmations, I would say Clarence Thomas is up next.
Probably a few others, you're right.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. Congressman Mark Pocan taking your calls for the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. We'll be back with more of your calls for the Congressman right after this.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
And you can visit Congressman Pocan's webpage at pocan.house.gov. You can tweet him at @RepMarkPocan. Sawyer Studios. Oop. And welcome back. Charlene in, how do you say that town in Illinois? It looks like it says Nokomis?
Nokomis. It's from the Song
Okay.
of Hiawatha.
Oh, great. Okay. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan. Thanks for calling.
Well, hello. I'd like to know, President Obama was like the greatest guy ever. I can't imagine anybody better than him for president. And yet he still didn't do most of the stuff that we progressives need. In fact, he did a lot of stuff we don't need. And I'm assuming that is because he was held back by the rich donors to the Democratic Party, the same as the Republicans are held back by their rich donors. They have to do what they're told. So what I'm saying is, why should we vote democratically again when the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? What is going to be different? Why shouldn't we vote Green Party and try to get another party built up that's going to do what we want instead of the Democratic Party?
Sure, Charlene. So first of all, my perception is a little different. I think the first 2 years, Barack Obama probably tried too hard to work with Republicans that had absolutely no intention of working with him, and that's when we had the majority. And then when people didn't come out and vote in 2010 because we didn't accomplish the things that he said he was going to do because he was trying to get it done working with the Republicans, we had this giant loss in the House and the Senate, and because of it, he wasn't able to have a majority to get things done, and some of the rule changes he did were in the last couple of years of his administration, and unfortunately, some of those got turned over by Donald Trump. I think they thought Hillary Clinton was going to win, and they had some time to do this. And so, many good things did happen under Barack Obama, and I think, again, aspirationally, he really was such a great face for the country to the rest of the world. But I don't think, the problem was the rich donors. I think there's plenty of problems with rich donors and why we need to address campaign finance significantly in this country. But in the case of why some things think could happen, I think a lot more probably, were that failure the first 2 years and then losing the Congress and not being able to get things to move forward.
Dee in Bellevue, Washington. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yes, hi. I was on the freeway and I saw a tank on a flatbed. And come to find out, in West Seattle, Terminal 5, they're going to have about 1,000 tanks coming in, heading to Korea. Is there something we should know? And is it going to north or south?
Great question. I don't know, Dia. You're breaking news to me right now on that, so I will look into it, but I have not heard that.
Mary in Las Vegas, Nevada, you are on the air with Congressman Pocan. Thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV.
Morning. If I'm not mistaken, I think Carrier closed their doors and they're taking their business out of the country. I think that was the one Trump had the big photo op with early on. And another concern is if jobs go to China, then there goes our technology and there go even more jobs here. And I just don't know why we continue to sell the boardwalk to Russia and to countries that, we're selling real estate here to countries that, don't adhere to our way of life.
Yeah, Mary, I'll tell you, this is my opinion, but shared by, I think, a number of people, that Donald Trump is more about the United States of Donald Trump than this country. And much of what he does is about future money, profits for he and his family and his businesses. And that's part of why I think these bad decisions happen.
We'll be back with more of your calls for Congressman Pocan in just a moment. Stick around. It's the Thom Hartmann Program. We really need to pick up this pace. Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to Thom Hartmann. Before the hour, it's Anything Goes. Excuse me, it's Congressman Mark Pocan, Middays with Mark, taking your calls. Leslie in New York City, you are on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hi, Tom. This is Les.
Hey, Les, you're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Okay, hi, Congressman. Hey, I was going to bring up about the lady brought up about the lying of
Kavanaugh?
The Supreme Court nominee, yeah. He lied, 4 times? And some people are going to prosecute him, I understand. And the Democrats ought to be furious about this guy. They ought to make the biggest deal in the world about it, to take this guy out. You guys got to be going nuts right now. But they ain't. I think guys are going to let him slide again, just like they always do.
Yeah, so Les, Tom, first of all, I do have to run a vote. Has been called a while back, and if I don't go in about the next minute, I'm going to be late for it. So let me just say to Les, I think they are. Just you got to have the information, right? People are saying he lied, but there's the legal standard of a lie and the impeachable standard and the reality of the Congress. So I think, I've been more surprised than not how aggressive the Senate Democrats have been on this. So, this is all still new and developing. Let's watch it closely. But without those 2 Republican votes, it's still very hard on this nomination. We have to remember that. But I apologize to everyone for having to cut out early.
Okay. Well, good luck with your vote, and thank you for being with us for the 53 minutes you were. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. Take care.
Great talking with you. Congressman Mark Pocan, his website, pocan.house.gov. You can tweet him at Rep. Mark Pocan. I'll continue to pick up your calls here. Gary in Tacoma, Washington, listening on our Pacific affiliate in Tacoma, 91.3 FM. Gary, what's up?
Wow, this is for real. Tom, first of all, I
thoroughly enjoy you. You're part of my daily routine.
Thank you, Gary.
This whole situation reminds me of the often used the frog sitting in the pan of water with the heat on, and it slowly boils, and the frog never realizes that our country basically is the frog. When I was a landlord, I can remember being on the porch of a house trying to get 5 months rent in arrears and being told by the person in my home, on my property, to get off the porch because I didn't give him 48 hours notice. We are in a situation, this Trump is like watching Dr. Strangelove, but it's, you know, every day I wake up to the sitcom or whatever you want to call it, the dark comedy, the Trump show. I just don't understand it. I'm 72 years old, ex-Marine. I can remember being intimidated by adults as a young man, wondering when will I grow up? When will I have a say? When will I be part of it? Well, shit, I'm 72 years old, and I still don't see any man stepping up to that clown and knocking him out or knocking him over. When he did his simulation of a handicapped person, that should have been it right then and there.
Yeah.
You know, somebody should have come up, taken him by the arm, and walked him off the stage. I'm just so frustrated.
It is happening, Gary. It is happening. His popularity is now in the low 30% range. He basically, outside of the dedicated Fox viewers and dedicated listeners to right-wing hate radio, which is apparently about a little less than a third of the country, outside of that little bubble, he's got nothing. And that, by the way, that should be huge. I mean, right-wing hate radio is literally available in every city in America, whereas progressive voices are only available in a few cities in America. Fox is basic cable. They don't charge for it, unlike MSNBC, where you have to pay an extra $5 a month. Fox is free everywhere in the country. And so, you know, with that kind of support, he should actually have, you know, a much larger base. I think that even the Republicans are waking up to this guy, Gary. I'm not all that concerned about it.
I would hope so. All right. Hey, we love you.
And thank you. And you've got some serious Democrats out there who are, you know, coming to take this guy down. So thank you. Floyd in Bakersfield, California. Floyd, we just have a little less than a minute before the top of the hour here. What's up?
Yeah, I just got a question. If Trump's election was illegal, if the Russians helped him be elected, and Mueller proves that,
right,
shouldn't all of his people he's trying to get into the Supreme Court, is there any way that if he was impeached, they could be removed?
They would have to be individually impeached. The problem is that our Constitution doesn't envision this kind of thing. And you would think after the horrible presidency of Andrew Jackson that maybe, you know, whether it was Martin Van Buren who followed him or whether it was John Quincy Adams who preceded him, they were all horrified by him. And you know, maybe Congress should have put something in place for annulling, you know, phony baloney elections, but they didn't. So, Floyd, I don't see how it could happen. Unfortunately, I agree with you, though.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
We really need to pick up this pace. We are way behind in terms of raising money to keep this network going. We got some great premiums, things that you can get and give to your conservative neighbors and friends and relatives. You know, a sticker you can put on their car or front. Well, maybe not, but you know, you can get creative, right? There's a lot that can be done. And this great book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America, that I wrote years ago, and it's just absolutely, totally relevant today. It's just an amazing book on politics and the nature and the history of American politics. Goes all the way back to the Jefferson Adams debacle from Adams' point of view. And you know, get a jump on Christmas, you know, or on the holidays, you know, whatever they may be for you. It's important that we all pitch in right now. I'm dancing my heart out here for Free Speech TV, and do so every day. And if you could help out by calling 877-378-8669 and making a contribution, it would be so appreciated. It is so important that we keep this network on the air. We're in the neighborhood of hitting half of what we needed to be at for this. We're coming up on a full week here today. And I don't know how to say it other than that. It's really important to keep Free Speech TV going. I know it's important to me. I'm assuming it's important to you. And I think, frankly, it's important to the future of our country. I look at how, for example, in part, I mean, Bernie Sanders is a brilliant politician, but in part, his being on this program every Friday for 11 years introduced him to America in a way that I believe, and I've had people around Bernie tell me, really jump-started things, so that when he went out in the field in 2015, 2016, wherever he went, there were people who were going, brunch with Bernie. They recognized him. Our program has an impact in national politics. And I believe in local politics as well. All the people who've called in and said, you know, I decided to run for you know, city council or for just a position in the party as a result of watching your program. I didn't even know those things were available. I didn't know that, you know, what a precinct committee person is and things like that. We're doing some good stuff here, and we need your help to do it. Amy Goodman is doing good stuff, reporting on the news. There's a bunch of great programs on Free Speech TV. And all of this is at risk if we can't hit our goals for this fund drive. And that's a serious concern. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and get one of these extraordinary goodies that you can, as I said, share with your conservative friends, neighbors, and relatives. With a $30 gift, you get the Free Speech TV mini kit. That's the vote sticker and the Free Speech TV button. With a $72 gift, you get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. An illustrated, you could call it a comic book, but it's not funny stuff. It's history. And it's not for kids. I mean, kids can read it and get it and find it interesting, but it's really a book for adults. And great coffee table book, great bathroom book. It's divided into chapters that all stand, each one stands alone, and they're easy to read, and I think you'll find it fascinating. I think you'll love it. It's one of my favorites. With a $120 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech t-shirt kit. That is the sticker and the button, plus the Vote Free Speech TV dark gray t-shirt. These, by the way, I don't know if you've noticed over the years, but these things become collector's items. So something to think about. That's with a $120 gift. With a $240 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hoodie. These are, by the way, the clothes, Free Speech TV hoodie and the t-shirt, all, unlike the Trump paraphernalia, all made in the United States. And the hoodie kit is with a $240 gift, which can be $20 a month for a year. And you get the zip-up hoodie, and you get the bunch of bumpers, or the sticker and the button. With a $360 gift, that's $30 a month for a year, or $360 one time. You get the Vote Our Future pack, and that includes the sweatshirt and the t-shirt and the button and the sticker. That's with $30 a month or $360. And with $480, You get all that stuff, the T-shirt, the hoodie, the bumper sticker, or the sticker. I don't think it's quite the size of a bumper sticker, but the sticker and on the button. Plus, you get a copy of my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. That's with $480 or $40 a month for a year. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and we'll take you to lunch. And you can bring along a spouse or significant other. I think we have tomorrow, I was just told we have about a dozen people showing up, and I'm not sure if that's 6 people plus spouses or partners, or if there's a few people who come alone, and there's a few people who bring someone with them. So we probably got 8 or 10 donors tomorrow coming by. I'm looking forward to it. And if you're one of them, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. So anyhow, the number 877-378-8669. Please call now. Thank you. Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to thomhartmann.com.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you after a fascinating hour with Congressman Mark Pocan. Let's move to another topic here. This, the presidency, essentially. It's interesting how during the presidency of George W. Bush and just before it, we saw this major effort to conflate George W. Bush and his father's presidency with that of John Quincy Adams and John Adams. And, to his credit, John Quincy Adams was arguably one of the most high-minded, ethical presidents and politicians of the 19th century, of that entire era. And he was defeated by Andrew Jackson, who basically called him a limp-wristed wimp. John Quincy Adams was very educated, and he was very opposed to slavery, so much so that after he lost the presidential election and was no longer president, lost the election to Andrew Jackson, he ran for Congress and went back into the U.S. House of Representatives just so he could break the law and bring up the issue of slavery every single day. So anyhow, into this modern maelstrom steps Bradley J. Birzer. He is a professor of history and the Russell Kirk Chair in American Studies. Russell Kirk, of course, the author of The Conservative Mind back in 1951, the book that kicked off the modern conservative movement. He's a co-founder and editor-at-large of the Imaginative Conservative. His website, Birzer, BIRZER.com, and you can tweet him at Bradley Birzer at Hillsdale College. Dr. Birzer, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much, Tom. I'm really glad to be here.
Thank you. You have written a book in defense of Andrew Jackson, and I'm just baffled by this. This guy was a hypocrite. He was a moral coward. He was a slave owner, and over the years, when he first bought the Hermitage, he had 10 slaves there. By the time he died, he had 150. He was in the business. He is a probable rapist. He was a fan of genocide. When he had taken New Orleans, he had people executed just because they upset him. How could anybody defend this man?
Oh, yeah, thanks, Tom. I mean, there's so many things about Jackson that are problematic, if not downright wrong. And I think that's a fair assessment. Part of what I was trying to do with the In Defense Of, and I like John Quincy Adams as well. In fact, I think he's the best man of that era. But part of what I was trying to do is just kind of move beyond some of the stereotypes that have really grown since the 1960s regarding Jackson, especially in terms of his Indian policy, and try and give it a little bit of context. So I know the title is in defense of, but it's really more, let's see this guy in context and try and figure out what he was trying to do and how people responded to him.
So, for example, in 1830, he signed this law, the Indian Removal Act, which legalized ethnic cleansing. Within 7 years, 46,000 human beings were removed from their homelands east of the Mississippi. This gave 25 million acres to white settlement, which was virtually all turned over to cotton and slavery, which is exactly what he wanted. The Cherokee, the Creek, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, the Seminoles. I mean, he declared war on the Seminoles, just kind of basically, made this war up. How can you put that in any kind of context? At the time, the previous president, John Quincy Adams, said what Andrew Jackson was doing was criminal.
Yeah, again, it is hard to defend in so many ways. So part of the context, if I can think about this and try and think about it as objectively as possible, which is not always easy as a historian, but when we look at Jackson and the Indian Removal Act, obviously the consequences of that were just disastrous. And, no more so, I think. I mean, the Choctaw prove how disastrous it was. The removal, they died, almost a third of the tribe died en route to Oklahoma. Another third, or at least a half of that remaining, died that first winter. It was a bureaucratic nightmare in every way. And it would be so difficult to imagine being a survivor of that, knowing that 2 out of every 3 of the people is gone. So I don't think there's a lot of justification for it. The only thing that I think is possible is to try and understand why Congress would have done this. Why did they go along with the president? How was he able to push this? And to me, the fascinating aspect is that really, as Jackson was promoting this, so many people in America at the time were actually blaming him for being too pro-Indian and being an Indian lover because he was spending so much money on the Indians and giving them what they considered to be prime land, as opposed to giving.
Wait a minute, his nicknames were Indian Killer and Sharp Knife. He was famous for killing Indians. I mean, that's what he did. Going after the Seminole, back before he was president, he ordered, after they attacked the men and beat them, he then ordered his soldiers to go in and burn the villages and murder the women and children so there would be no ancestors.
Yeah, I mean, there you've got an example of frontier total war at its worst. And Jackson, he did, to say that he was against all Indians would be taking it too far.
No, he adopted one, but that doesn't, that's sort of like, saying, some of my best friends are Jewish or black or fill in the blanks. I mean, it doesn't really wash.
He did, though. Agreed. That could be taken in a lot of different ways. But he also allied himself with a number of Indians. And, when we look at what he did at the Battle of New Orleans, he had a number of Indians fighting on his side. So it was never a clear-cut distinction between those who were native and those who weren't. Jackson, was pretty clear about the way that he thought in terms of who could be in alliance and who couldn't. And often those decisions were fairly moral decisions based on how the tribe had behaved or what they were doing.
But isn't this something that went back to Bradford in the 1620s of basically aligning with one tribe against another tribe to try and split them apart and then ultimately destroy both of them, even though you've got a temporary alliance with one tribe?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty cynical interpretation of it.
But that's how it played out.
It's totally wrong.
I mean, that's how it played out. There's in large chunks of this country, there's no more Native Americans, and it used to be chock-a-block, right? Full.
The other thing that I think, Tom, at least for me, that gives me a little bit of pause is it is true that so many Southerners benefited from the removal. That, again, I don't think we can question. I think that's obvious. But Jackson also went against Southern interests very strongly with the nullification process in 1832 and 1833. So if he really was just adamantly pro-Southern, he really shot himself in the foot in a lot of ways.
Well, he was adamantly pro-slavery, I think. But let's take this to today. One of the things that I find fascinating about it, we're talking with Bradley Birzer. He's got a new book out called In Defense of Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson is Donald Trump's favorite president. And, I don't know why. I don't, know if it's because Andrew Jackson was a famous racist, or because he killed so many Indians, or because he owned so many slaves. I don't get it. But he gave lip service to small government, but that's not certainly what he did. What in your mind are the parallels between Jackson and Trump that make Jackson now an iconic figure for Trump followers?
Sure. On one side, you've got, of course, all the scandals in terms of marriage, extramarital. Those things were going on in both administrations. And Trump, obviously, when it comes to morality and sexuality, he's kind of off the scale. But the other thing that I think shows that there's connectedness, not just their Scottish background, but also the fact that each of them is a very unusual president. That is, they really don't fit the norm. They are outsiders who came in and really did challenge a lot of assumptions in Washington, D.C. I can speak better on Jackson than I can on Trump, but I mean, certainly Jackson was very feared in Washington, D.C., not just because he was brutal, and he was, but also because he really was willing to call something. And when he thought it was wrong, he was very open about that. And he did change. I mean, there were a lot of drastic changes in Washington during his 2 terms.
Well, Jackson, in his right after his inaugural, his inaugural party was at the White House, and he basically opened the doors and said anybody can come in. And in fact, people came in and they stole pieces of the White House. It was widely viewed as sort of a raucous time, shall we say. Trump comes into office on the same kind of populist rhetoric. I'm here for you. I'm here for the little guy. But then he doesn't let the people in. And in fact, to get into any of his inaugural balls, you have to be a high-end donor. He fills his cabinet with lobbyists, which is, quite different than what Jackson did. He surrounds himself and funds himself with billionaires. He himself is a billionaire. Andrew Jackson wasn't, although his wealth increased. I think you could make a strong case that virtually 100% of Andrew Jackson's wealth was a result of being a slave owner. Doesn't that, with any kind of close look, doesn't that comparison break down quite quickly?
Yeah, probably. I think that, and it's not something I dwelt upon at all in the book, just making a note that certainly Trump, when he came into office and then on the 250th anniversary of Jackson's birth, that he really did celebrate that. And it was an interesting speech that Trump gave that day. So, yeah, I mean, that's the real connection. I think just the fact that one is interested in the other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. The book is in defense of Andrew Jackson. Bradley Birzer is the author. The book is out now. BradBirzer.com is his website. Brad, thanks a lot for dropping by today.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Good talking with you. And, fascinating topic. We'll be back. It's coming up on 17 minutes past the hour. There's a lot in the news we'll be getting to, and your calls and thoughts right after this.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Well, that was interesting. I was fully expecting we'll see. I was fully expecting a debate, and instead I got a conversation. Stick around. Welcome back. 17 minutes past the hour. Our phone lines are open. Our telephone number, 202-808-9925. Feel free to give us a shout. Are you keeping track of what's going on with Paul Manafort? I think, this is not being brought up in the media, but basically I think that the way that this is playing out is that Manafort is basically advertising. I think he's trying to use the media to say to Donald Trump, if you're going to give me a pardon, it better be now or never, because I'm going to save my butt. I think Paul Manafort, he's at the point now, he's been convicted of enough felonies that he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. If they concatenate, they could give him some leniency, but they could also literally keep him in prison for the rest of his life. And those are the small ones. Right, the treason against your country kind of stuff is what's coming up next. And Manafort, the news story is, well, Manafort is thinking about cutting a deal maybe with these people and maybe not, and we'll see. And but he's trying not to involve the president in the deal that he's cutting. I don't know why nobody else is calling this out and pointing this out. What Manafort is saying is time to give me a pardon or not. If you don't want me to spill to the other side, if you know, Manafort is saying that if Trump doesn't want him to spill his guts, spill the beans on all the crimes that he knows that Donald Trump is involved with. And keep in mind, Paul Manafort lived in Trump Tower for years and years. Paul Manafort ran Donald Trump's campaign. Paul Manafort was an advisor to Donald Trump. He's a longtime friend of Donald Trump. And Paul Manafort goes way back in Republican circles. He worked peripherally with Nixon. He worked directly with Ronald Reagan. His company came up with the Willie Horton ads in the George Herbert Walker Bush election of 1988. The Willie Horton ads against Michael Dukakis. You know, and you know, these racist ads. That was Paul Manafort and you know, the people who worked for him. And so Manafort is, you know, the Republican Party has largely dumped him. And now I think this is an absolute Hail Mary, and we'll see where it goes. Meanwhile, Beto O'Rourke is, this is interesting. Trump's personal lawyers have a joint defense agreement with Manafort. This is Tierney Sneed writing at TPM. President Trump's personal legal team has a joint defense agreement with Paul Manafort's lawyers, allowing them to share confidential information, according to Rudy Giuliani. That's really interesting. He had similar agreements in place with both Mike Flynn and Michael Cohen before those, in both cases, those joint defense agreements broke down, and you know, Trump stands alone. It'll be real interesting to see if this thing gets maintained. He's now facing money laundering and failure to disclose foreign lobbying charges. And again, here at the news story, Manafort has been resisting prosecutors' desire that a plea deal include cooperation. I'm telling you, this is Paul Manafort's way of saying to Donald Trump via the media, you better be giving me a pardon, or I'm going to be spilling the beans. So we'll see where it goes. We'll be picking up your calls right after this. It's 21 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Home of the pollution. We'll be right back. Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, you know, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to thomhartmann.com.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Thom Hartmann here with you. And Donald Trump is working to suppress the vote in North Carolina using monstrous new methods. The Independent Media Institute's Stephen Rosenfeld writing about this. You know, I think we should get this guy on as a guest. This is really extraordinary what's going on, and all the details with this. Paul Manafort, I was talking about this for just briefly during the break here. I believe, I'm seeing all these news reports about Paul Manafort saying, I'm willing to cut a deal with the prosecutor, but I don't want to throw Donald Trump under the bus. Right? I'm willing to do a plea agreement, but I don't want it to be a cooperation agreement. I'm willing to say I'm sorry, but I'm not willing to give you Trump. Yet. And in my opinion, what this is a loud and naked shout out to Donald Trump saying, hey, Donald, you either get me out of this mess with a pardon, or I'm going to have to flip on you because I'm looking at life in prison right now, given my age. And I think that that's exactly what's going on, and it's going to be real interesting to see how Trump handles that. JP in Bozeman, Montana, listening on Sirius XM. Hey, JP, what's up?
Not much. How you doing, Tom?
Great. What's up?
I was just thinking, Trump has declared war on the press and claims it's the enemy of the people. What's preventing him, and for us supporting him, to break up those liberal media monopolies? It seems like it's within his power to lead the charge on breaking up media monopolies that are obviously destroying our democracy.
Well, I'm not sure it would destroy our democracy to incrementally do that. For example, to go back to the rule saying that the networks can't own stations. And
well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that we should lean into his
use his talking points
and say,
but his talking points are dishonest. I mean, there's this thing, the fruit of the poison tree. If you're using dishonest talking points, even for a noble outcome, I'm not sure that you can reliably believe that outcome is gonna be a good one.
Well, you don't need to say that you agree with it. You can just say, well, if the media is doing these things, and whether they are or they aren't, it's obvious that there's a media monopoly. Let's break those monopolies up. And if you're right, then you're right.
Yeah. What's real interesting in this area is back in the 2012 election. Was that the one where Howard Dean ran, or was that 2008?
2004.
2004? Wow. Okay. Whichever one it was, Louise and I remember this as if it was yesterday. It was just so shocking to me. Louise and I were sitting on the couch watching TV, and Howard Dean was being interviewed by Chris Matthews and on MSNBC. And Chris said, what do you want to do about the media? And I have no idea what the, and by the way, this is from memory, so these may not be verbatim quotes, but I think they're pretty close. And I didn't know what he meant at that moment. I didn't know, did he mean, well, whatever. And Howard Dean said, break them up. And Matthews was like, break them up. And Dean was like, yeah, these big companies are too big. They're doing too many different things. And Chris Matthews said, you mean like break up NBC, the network that you're on right here? And Howard Dean was like, yes, break up the big networks. And it was 2 days later that the Dean scream happened, which we all know now in retrospect was not any sort of weird event. Howard Dean just said, yeah, into a microphone, but it didn't, the microphone was the kind of microphone that blocks out crowd noise. It was perfectly normal what he was doing, but all the networks turned Howard Dean into a crazy person. And so that's what happens to politicians who publicly call for the networks to be broken up, in my opinion. JP, thanks for the call. I do think that competition is a good thing, and I think that local control is a good thing, whether it's in the media or whether it's a company making computers. And just right across the board, we have gotten too big.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
We'll be back. It's 27 minutes past the hour. Back with your calls right after this. We really need to pick up this pace. We are way behind in terms of raising money to keep this network going. We got some great premiums, things that you can get and give to your conservative neighbors and friends and relatives. A sticker you can put on their car or front. Well, maybe not, but you can get creative, right? There's a lot that can be done. And this great book called Back, We the People, A Call to Take Back America, that I wrote years ago, and it's just absolutely totally relevant today. It's just an amazing book on politics and the nature and the history of American politics. Goes all the way back to the Jefferson Adams debacle from Adams' point of view. And get a jump on Christmas, or on the holidays, whatever they may be for you. It's important that we all pitch in right now. I'm dancing my heart out here for Free Speech TV, and do so every day. And if you could help out by calling 877-378-8669 and making a contribution, it would be so appreciated. It is so important that we keep this network on the air. We're in the neighborhood of hitting half of what we needed to be at for this. We're coming up on a full week here today. And I don't know how to say it other than that. It's really important to keep Free Speech TV going. I know it's important to me. I'm assuming it's important to you. And I think, frankly, it's important to the future of our country. I look at how, for example, in part, Bernie Sanders is a brilliant politician, but in part, his being on this program every Friday for 11 years introduced him to America in a way that I believe, and I've had people around Bernie tell me, really jump-started things, so that when he went out in the field in 2015, 2016, wherever he went, there were people who were going, brunch with Bernie. They recognized him. Our program has an impact in national politics. And I believe in local politics as well. All the people who've called in and said, I decided to run for city council or for just a position in the party as a result of watching your program. I didn't even know those things were available. I didn't know that, what a precinct committee person is and things like that. We're doing some good stuff here, and we need your help to do it. Amy Goodman is doing good stuff, reporting on the news. There's a bunch of great programs on Free Speech TV. And all of this is at risk if we can't hit our goals for this fund drive. And that's a serious concern. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and get one of these extraordinary goodies that you can, as I said, share with your conservative friends, neighbors, and relatives. With a $30 gift, you get the Free Speech TV mini kit. That's the vote sticker and the Free Speech TV button. With a $72 gift, you get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. An illustrated, you could call it a comic book, but it's not funny stuff. It's history. And it's not for kids. Kids can read it and get it and find it interesting, but it's really a book for adults. And great coffee table book, great bathroom book. It's divided into chapters that all each one stands alone, and they're easy to read, and I think you'll find it fascinating. I think you'll love it. It's one of my favorites. With a $120 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech t-shirt kit. That is the sticker and the button, plus the Vote Free Speech TV dark gray t-shirt. These, by the way, I don't know if you've noticed over the years, but these things become collector's items. So something to think about. That's with a $120 gift. With a $240 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hoodie. These are, by the way, the clothes, Free Speech TV hoodie and the t-shirt, all, unlike the Trump paraphernalia, all made in the United States. And the hoodie kit is with a $240 gift, which can be $20 a month for a year. And you get the zip-up hoodie, and you get the bumpers, or the sticker and the button. With a $360 gift, that's $30 a month for a year, or $360 one time. You get the Vote Our Future pack, and that includes the sweatshirt and the t-shirt and the button and the sticker. That's with $30 a month, or $360. And with $480, you get all that stuff, the t-shirt, the hoodie, the bumper sticker, or the sticker. I don't think it's quite the size of a bumper sticker, but the sticker and on the button. Plus, you get a copy of my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. That's with $480 or $40 a month for a year. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and we'll take you to lunch. And you can bring along a spouse or significant other. I think we have tomorrow, I was just told we have about a dozen people showing up, and I'm not sure if that's 6 people plus spouses and partners, or if there's a few people who come alone, and there's a few people who bring someone with them. So we probably got 8 or 10 donors tomorrow. coming by. I'm looking forward to it. And if you're one of them, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. So anyhow, the number 877-378-8669. Please call now. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
July 24th, 2019. For more information, Keen Luxury Travel, 800-856-1155. And did I mention, we'll be getting active on board with special events with yours truly me as we visit Ketchikan, Juneau, Skagway, Sitka, Hubbard Glacier, and Anchorage. Well, it looks like that thing that is so common with Republican politicians getting caught with, I don't think I can say that one on the radio. Getting caught with their pants down, shall we say. Brett Kavanaugh, apparently a woman has written a letter to Representative Anna Eshoo, a Democrat in California, who turned that letter over to Dianne Feinstein, who shared it with Chuck Grassley, and now they are referring this to the entire Judiciary Committee. Feinstein said in a statement today, I have received information from an individual concerning the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. That individual strongly requested confidentiality, declined to come forward or press the matter further, and I have honored that decision. I have, however, referred the matter to federal investigative authorities. So this is now apparently in the hands of the FBI. Brett Kavanaugh, he's the lawyer's lawyer, right? For example, a Democratic senator sends him a written request, a written letter that says, how did you pay off the $200,000 in credit card debt? You referenced losing money in a dice game in one of your emails. Have you ever played a game of chance? And have you ever declared winnings or losings from gambling to the IRS? And Kavanaugh says, no, I've never declared anything to the IRS, and I've never played fantasy football. What? That doesn't answer the questions. That's like, hey, have you ever shoplifted? I have never stolen lettuce from Safeway. I've stolen wine from the wine store. It's like, come on. That's amazing. Paul in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind?
Hi, yeah, I'd just like to revet that author that you just had on as far as the genocide that was a major part of Jackson's agenda back during his presidency. There's not enough whitewash to make that intellectual house that's falling down look like anything but a fixer-upper.
Yeah, his book is published by Regenry, which is the right-wing publishing company that publishes Jerome Corsi's books like, Swift Boat Veterans for Truth. Like
the Boers did in South Africa, they picked and chose winners and losers, and with their superior technology, they made the losers really lose, calling it genocide. Yeah. And to look the other way and say that was okay is not okay. You got to pull the shine off of that one. But I'd like to say that to square the circle, to make it the final points about these arguments, you have to look at who Trump apprenticed under, Roy Cohn.
Yeah.
The man who makes civil rights and social justice in this country look like a totally unattainable kind of thing because of his torn-up personality, the things that happened to him as youth.
Yeah. There's a bizarre logic that these people follow and that the Trump followers follow as well.
Don't look at what I do, but just listen to what I say and take it to the bank.
Well, it even goes.
Follow me is to the bank. If you look anywhere else, you'll come up there.
Yeah, it even goes a step beyond that, and that is that, hey, let's destroy a group of people, right? Whether it's Native Americans on a reservation or whether it's African Americans in downtown Flint, Michigan. Let's destroy a group of people. Let's give them crappy water. Let's give them terrible schools. Let's underfund all of their, all of their infrastructure needs. Let's deny them health care. Let's do all these things. And then when their community is in crisis, let's stand around and say, see, told you those Indians couldn't do anything. See, I told you those black people couldn't do anything. You know, and then you get these guys coming on network television. Literally, you see this about once a week, particularly over on Fox so-called news, saying, well, it's another black-controlled city that's in a crisis. You know, wink, wink, nod, nod to all the racists. And, you know, nobody ever asked, well, how did it get that way? It's the same thing with many of the countries in Africa that suffered under hundreds of years of colonial rule and were, you know, essentially raped, you know, stripped of all their resources and you know, absolutely prevented from ever developing any kind of democratic norms. And then people go, oh, why doesn't that work? Oh, it must be the color of their skin. Come on, give me a break. Yeah, Paul.
I think your voice is a strong one in pulling some of these things together. Dot to dot kind of things that people who actually want to look and not swallow the Kool-Aid can follow and come up with an alternate plan, because there's many alternate plans that don't take the extremist route, the race to the bottom.
Yeah, but that, you know, what I just described that they do with black cities or black countries is the exact same thing that they've been doing you know, for centuries. I mean, this is, and it's just as much a lie now as it always was. Paul, thanks a lot for the call. Very, very well said. Bill in Sebastian, Florida. Hey, Bill, what's up? You wanted to talk about Kavanaugh?
Yeah, he did seem quite evasive the entire time he was.
And have you read the written answers to the questions? I mean, they're sleazy, slimy, slick. Phew.
He's just and the $200,000 that he couldn't account for, and his avoidance was just well, you could just see that the man was teetering on falsehoods the entire time he was in front of the Senate.
Yeah.
That's all I've got. Tom,
okay,
really.
well,
And as well, DeSantis down here has really taken a turn to the right with some of the supporters he's taken on, and I believe that's going to hurt his candidacy tremendously down here in Florida.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Tom.
Well, I hope you're right, Bill. I really hope you're right. What in the ads DeSantis is running, what are the things that he's saying that cause you to think he's taking a hard turn to the right?
Well, just the people he's associating with. What's his name? Who just got back from Brazil? The fellow they threw out of the White House.
Steve Bannon?
Yeah, Bannon. Bannon just got on board with him.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah, right. And as well as, I believe, endorsements from that fellow Spencer as well.
Yeah, Richard Spencer. I didn't know that Spencer had endorsed him. Richard Spencer is the modern face of the American, you know, neo-Nazi movement, essentially.
Yeah, well, this guy DeSantis is trouble, and he's terribly shallow.
Yeah.
Terribly shallow on the issues. You know, he's got those go after you ads against the fellow from Tallahassee.
Yeah.
The ex-mayor, or the mayor of Tallahassee.
Yeah.
But that's all I've got, Tom, so thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Mr. Gillum has, you know, represents a great alternative. Charlie in New Harmony, Indiana. Hey, Charlie, what's up?
Hey, Tom, I love your show. The blue wave is on the way. Believe it, man.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. My question is kind of a rhetorical thing, and it's speaking about an election in 2012. And God knows I wouldn't have done it then, but wouldn't we have been better off if Mitt Romney would have won then? Look to the future, what that would have done for 2016. Just as a thinking point here.
I don't think so. You know, Mitt Romney would not have put Kagan and Sotomayor on the Supreme Court. Mitt Romney was, in my opinion, and still is, by the way, he's going to be the senator from Utah soon, and then he's going to be running for president in 2020, is a wolf in sheep's clothing. He binds himself closely to the economic agenda of the Republican Party, which is basically support the billionaire class at all expense, and tries to put a friendly face on it. You know, he's got this oh shucks thing down really, really well. I'm just very, very concerned. It's no matter how decent a Republican is, there's still a Republican. They're still part of a giant machine. Well, here, for example, since Citizens United, this is over at Common Dreams today, Jessica Corbett writing about it. Since Citizens United, just 15 groups account for 75% of the $800 million in dark money spent on U.S. elections. That, 75% of $800 million came from just 15 groups, and virtually all of them are hard right wing. U.S. Chamber of Commerce is number one at $120 million. Crossroads GPS, that's Karl Rove's group, at $110 million. American for Prosperity, that's the Koch brothers, $59 million. The National Rifle Association, $54 million. The American Future Fund, I'm not sure what that is. The American Action Network. League of Conservation Voters, well, okay, that's, there's $30 million. National Association of Realtors. And then it gets into, the groups that are just pushing for their own interests. But this is how this happens. And Mitt Romney is going to be one of the people who's going to just totally embrace those guys, in my humble opinion, Charlie.
Yeah, I failed to consider the Supreme Court thing, which is really bad considering what's going on now.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. He probably would have had 4 more years to work with the Congress and ran through these tax cuts and kill Obamacare. And yeah, but it's just what happened is so bad. I wouldn't even consider that maybe have been better than what happened. But man, what's happened? Jeez.
Well, that's the thing. Donald Trump is taking his Andrew Jackson impersonation way too far. And, this is not a good thing for America. Charlie, thanks a lot for the call. We'll be back. We're going to check in with Talk Media News in about 4 minutes and find out what's going on in the world today. We'll be back after that or for that. So stick around. It's the Thom Hartmann Program. Occupying the media 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, defending America from the weapons of mass deception. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be right back with more of your calls, and we're going to check in with Talk Media News in just a moment. And welcome back. Kenyatta in Redlands, California, watching us on Free Speech TV. Hey, Kenyatta, what's on your mind today?
Be very succinct if I can be, because I never know when you're going to come up on a hard break, and I know you've got something coming up.
We have 4 minutes.
I wanted to tell you, or express to you, and you may be a little surprised, but hear me out on this one. I think I wanted to tell you about why I think Donald Trump is a genius. And in an idiot savant kind of way, and why I love Donald Trump. And it is as follows. Donald Trump is a genius because he is clearly a megalomaniac. He clearly is a sociopath. He clearly is narcissistic to a degree that I've never seen before. However, he's a genius in that he has a way of branding things, whether it be Crooked Hillary, Crazy Bernie, Failing Times newspaper. He has a way, and this stuff sticks. And Donald Trump, whatever you think about it, Donald Trump is successful, and Donald Trump speaks to the majority of the American people because Donald Trump knows that he's an idiot talking to idiots.
I would say he's talking to the majority of white men. I don't think he's talking to any other majority in this country.
Okay, that's a distinction without a difference, Tom. He's an idiot talking to idiots.
Okay.
And he speaks idiot. And he is very successful that way. He is a guy that everything is dominated by him since he's been in office. All the news stations, it's Trump all day, every day. It's almost like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it is weird. The very thing that the country is doing, the media in particular, constantly talking about Donald Trump is the very thing that he's after. And the thing that would need to be done to bring him down is the thing that the media won't do. And I understand why. It's sexy. So that's the genius in him. And here briefly is why I love Donald Trump. Barack and Michelle Obama were a lie. They were kumbaya. We've gotten past racism. We've gotten past slavery. Look, we've got a black man, which we constantly talked about his white mother, by the way, and not his black father, who was a professor and that he loved, wrote a book about. We constantly talked about that. Because we have overcome. But the reality is that that was a lie. Donald Trump is the real America. Donald Trump is a racist. He's a pig. He's a sexist. And he represents what this country really is. And that's why I love him.
Why would you love him for that? I don't get it.
Because he represents reality, Tom. He's the reality that me as a black man at 56 years old have lived every day of my life. And a well-educated one, by the way. I'm not the stereotypical, downtrodden, blah, 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 blah. The stories that they tell about us black people all the time. No, I'm not that. In fact, my first vote was for Ronald Reagan. I learned better. But the point is that this is what this country is. And it's only a shock to white people now. Yeah. Donald Trump is not the disease. He is the symptom.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you on that. And I've said it a couple of times. It looks like Susan Sarandon, as much as I strongly oppose the idea of voting green, and I campaigned aggressively for Hillary Clinton once she won the nomination, Susan Sarandon's thought that if we had Donald Trump as president, it would be such a shock to the system, there'd be a revolution, may turn out to be prescient. We'll see. Now, it's not the way that it should have gone. It's not the way I think any of us wanted it to go, but here we are. Kenyatta, thanks for the call. Great to hear from you. We'll be right back. Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to thomhartmann.com.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And Loving What You Do, a new book by Ellen Ratner. On the line with us is Bob Ney, the author of Sideswiped, former Republican congressman from Ohio. Congressman, welcome back.
Well, thank you, Tom.
So it's always so nice to talk with you, Bob. I always learn so much. What's at the top of your hit parade in terms of the news today?
Oh, you're so kind. But I learn a lot from you. I love your show. I listen to it.
Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to say Donald Trump's name first. How about that?
Okay.
I'm going to say Betsy DeVos.
Oh, yeah.
She works for Donald Trump, all right?
Yeah.
And, she's, of course, the Secretary of Education, and she's lost a lawsuit, and that was accusing the department of delaying, inappropriately, accusing them of delaying the implementation of a borrower defense rule that protected students. Now, of course, this was a rule that was brought during the implementation in the Obama-era regulations. It was meant to protect students who took out loans to attend college from predatory practices. And by the way, the suit was brought by 19 states and the District of Columbia. And, of course, it went through the federal system, and a Washington federal court judge on Wednesday ruled that the department's postponement of this borrower defense rule was procedurally improper.
Let me just get this straight, Bob. Betsy DeVos has been arguing in court against 19 states in the District of Columbia that regulating the student loan business with regard to predatory practices, that's stopping predatory banking corporations from ripping off students, stopping that is a bad thing, that we should simply let predatory loan practices go on. Is that the position she was taking?
Absolutely. That's absolutely, and not only did she take it, she helped to stop the Obama-era regulation rule. She made sure it wasn't implemented. It was a rule during his time as president.
So has the court forced her to put the rule into place?
Oh, absolutely, because what they're doing, these were revelations that some, and they have cases here, some for-profit colleges entice students with promises for education and diplomas, and they would not allow them to get jobs in their chosen fields. It was a sham. So those certifications weren't recognized.
Yeah. So
so the department deprived plaintiffs of several concrete benefits.
So as DeVos loses, the court says you must protect students who are borrowers. And is she going to take this to the Supreme Court, where Brett Kavanaugh, if he's on the court at the time, will probably be the fifth vote to say screw the students?
Well, I mean, that could be a potential, because this judge, Randolph Moss, wrote a 57-page opinion, and he said the relief that they seek in this action, immediate implementation of the Defense Bar regulations, would restore benefits. And he said, because maybe he suspicions what you just said, he said in writing that he didn't want to delay matters further, and he's going to hold a hearing Friday to consider remedies. So not only has this judge went with the 19 states and District of Columbia against her, he's going to hold a hearing Friday to try to institute remedies, because he probably suspicions that they're going to try to take this up, to the food chain, to the Supreme Court. This is pretty serious. I mean, these were not allegations. This happened, and the Obama-era regulations corrected it.
Remarkable. What else is up, Bob?
Unreal. Well, they're talking about the blue wave, and I think this is pretty fascinating when you look at all of the data out there, and you look at the numbers. 1,706 Democratic congressional candidates have spent or raised money during this current cycle. So that breaks the previous record set in 2010, when 1,688 Republican candidates registered with the FEC. And we, of course, know about the Tea Party wave and what happened with that.
Sure.
So on the Democratic side, this is a great blue wave, but it does get boiled down to, with this headline that we read today on all this, though, what President Obama has been stating over and over and over, which is, you can be upset and you can wring your hands or gnash your teeth, whatever you want to do, or complain about Donald Trump, but it's a great statistic that is out here for a potential blue wave. But unless the voter turnout occurs in November, then there's a problem. If the voter turnout is in November, then these statistics, I think, probably bode pretty well.
Right, with only 1 out of 4 eligible voters under the age of 25 showing up to vote right now, we've got a major crisis in this country, and young people in particular need to get activated. They need to make sure that they're registered to vote. They need to get out there to vote. And even in, like Michigan has made it almost impossible for students to vote. You have to vote at your parents' home. And so, if you're going to school in Lansing and you live in the Upper Peninsula, you've got to drive hundreds of miles, hours and hours just to vote. But still, do it. I mean, and get Democrats in there who will change those laws. Forgive the rant, Bob. Back to you. What's going on? What else is in the news?
You're right. The statistics look good if the voter turnout occurs. And, of course, the committee vote is scheduled now. It was on an 11 to 10 party line vote for Kavanaugh, and that will be 1:45 p.m. on September the 20th. There's still a lot of back and forth, but that's when it's scheduled.
So they're going to vote on it next week?
Oh, yeah. They're going to cut it off September the 20th.
Wow.
Committee vote.
Wow. Okay, Bob Ney, the author of Sideswiped with TalkMediaNews.com. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Great talking with you. So we'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this. Do you think, Paul Manafort is shopping a pardon? And do you think that Trump is going to win this thing?
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads, they pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to thomhartmann.com. We really need to pick up this pace. We are way behind in terms of raising money to keep this network going. We got some great premiums, things that you can get and give to your conservative neighbors and friends and relatives. A sticker you can put on their car or front. Well, maybe not, but you can get creative, right? There's a lot that can be done. And this great book called We the People, A Call to Take Back America, that I wrote years ago, and it's just absolutely, totally relevant today. It's just an amazing book on politics and the nature and the history of American politics. It goes all the way back to the Jefferson-Adams debacle from Adams' point of view. And get a jump on Christmas, or on the holidays, whatever they may be for you. It's important that we all pitch in right now. I'm dancing my heart out here for Free Speech TV, and do so every day. And if you could help out by calling 877-378-8669 and making a contribution, it would be so appreciated. It is so important that we keep this network on the air. We're in the neighborhood of hitting half of what we needed to be at for this. We're coming up on a full week here today. And I don't know how to say it other than that. It's really important to keep Free Speech TV going. I know it's important to me. I'm assuming it's important to you. And I think, frankly, it's important to the future of our country. I look at how, for example, in part, Bernie Sanders is a brilliant politician, but in part, his being on this program every Friday for 11 years introduced him to America in a way that I believe, and I've had people around Bernie tell me, really jump-started things, so that when he went out in the field in 2015, 2016, wherever he went, there were people who were going, brunch with Bernie. They recognized him. Our program has an impact in national politics. And I believe in local politics as well. All the people who've called in and said, I decided to run for city council or for just a position in the party as a result of watching your program. I didn't even know those things were available. I didn't know that, what a precinct committee person is and things like that. We're doing some good stuff here, and we need your help to do it. Amy Goodman is doing good stuff, reporting on the news. There's a bunch of great programs on Free Speech TV. And all of this is at risk if we can't hit our goals for this fund drive. And that's a serious concern. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and get one of these extraordinary goodies that you can, as I said, share with your conservative friends, neighbors, and relatives. With a $30 gift, you get the Free Speech TV mini kit. That's the vote sticker and the Free Speech TV button. With a $72 gift, you get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. An illustrated, you could call it a comic book, but it's not funny stuff. It's history. And it's not for kids. Kids can read it and get it and find it interesting, but it's really a book for adults. And great coffee table book, great bathroom book. It's divided into chapters that all each one stands alone, and they're easy to read, and I think you'll find it fascinating. I think you'll love it. It's one of my favorites. With a $120 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech T-shirt kit. That is the sticker and the button, plus the Vote Free Speech TV dark gray T-shirt. These, by the way, I don't know if you've noticed over the years, but these things become collector's items. So something to think about. That's with a $120 gift. With a $240 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hoodie. These are, by the way, the clothes, Free Speech TV hoodie and the T-shirt, all, unlike the Trump paraphernalia, all made in the United States. And the hoodie kit is with a $240 gift, which can be $20 a month for a year. And you get the zip-up hoodie, and you get the bumpers, or the sticker and the button. With a $360 gift, that's $30 a month for a year, or $360 one time. You get the Vote Our Future pack, and that includes the sweatshirt and the T-shirt and the button and the sticker. That's with $30 a month, or $360. And with $480, you get all that stuff: the T-shirt, the hoodie, the bumper sticker, or the sticker. I don't think it's quite the size of a bumper sticker, but the sticker and on the button. Plus, you get a copy of my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. That's with $480 or $40 a month for a year. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and we'll take you to lunch. And you can bring along a spouse or significant other. I think we have tomorrow. I was just told we have about a dozen people showing up, and I'm not sure if that's 6 people plus spouses and partners, or if there's a few people who come alone, and there's a few people who bring someone with them. So we probably got 8 or 10 donors tomorrow coming by. I'm looking forward to it. And if you're one of them, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. So anyhow, the number 877-378-8669. Please call now. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Let's talk pot and marijuana. Angela Baca is with us. She's a freelance writer and editor. Angela Baca, at Angela Baca, B-A-C-C-A is her Twitter handle. All things pot. Angela, welcome. We talked a year or so ago?
About 2 years ago, yeah.
2 years ago, but it's great having you back on the program.
Thanks for having me.
And you write about marijuana in a whole bunch of different ways. I wanted to do a kind of 101 primer or whatever, however you say that word, for people, particularly people who may be living in states where medical marijuana was just decriminalized, or even recreational pot was just decriminalized. And let's kind of start at the beginning. What are you walk into a pot store, assuming that this is all legal. We're talking about legal marijuana trade here. You walk into a pot store and you ask for what?
Well, the thing is, nobody really knows. It depends on who you are and what kind of experience that you're looking for. But I would push back on saying that anybody has decriminalized marijuana, because no state really has yet.
Meaning that
there's still a criminal element post-legalization. Well, the federal government, but also here in Oregon with legalization, we have criminal amounts of cannabis that you can possess, and there are ways to still be a criminal for cannabis.
If you have more than 6 plants or something like that, or more than a certain
depending
number
on
of
how
ounces.
you're registered with the state or not, but
Yeah.
there's definitely still a lot of criminal elements around cannabis in every state.
And there's no parallel to that in like alcohol. You can't be busted for having too many bottles of wine
No.
in your house, or ammunition. Okay. Well, thank you for recalibrating that.
Sorry.
Now you walk into a legal pot store and you say, what should you be asking for? What are the main kind of categories of marijuana, both like the sativa indica categories and the dabs versus vapes versus raw pot versus pre-rolled joints that have a little concentrated. I mean, there's all these things, right?
Yeah,
Let's start at the beginning.
First, most of the information that people are using to determine what to buy at a dispensary is kind of not real. It's a lot of talk on the internet that's a big game of telephone that nobody really understands. So I kind of want to start with what you were saying about sativa and indica.
Mm-hmm.
We use these terms colloquially to say varieties that make me feel energetic or creative, or varieties, sativas, or varieties that would make me feel tired, or indicas, and that's not at all correct.
Mm-hmm.
The term sativa and indica refer to the place on the planet that those certain variety of plants had originated, but the effects of the plant themselves are more determined by the cannabinoids and the terpenes being the essential oils. And the most predictive way of determining how something's going to affect you is by smelling it. And so we'll use the term sativa and indica a lot in dispensaries, but it's not at all accurate at all as to how is this going to make me feel.
Right.
How to decide what to pick. That's really the kind of fun part of this, is that none of it's going to hurt you, and no one can tell you how it's going to make you feel or really predict that very well until you've started doing it yourself. And so there's a lot to try. I always recommend people to start with inhalation first, even if it feels weird to them, because when you inhale, you can feel immediately what the effects are as compared to eating a brownie and finding out you took too much.
Right. Yeah, I absolutely support that. I have a couple of friends who had never smoked pot, who started smoking pot, shared with me that they always had a bottle of wine handy, because if they got some pot that was a little too trippy for them, a little too much head high, and they really just didn't want to be like that, they could drink a good-sized glass of wine and it would just take the edge right off. And in fact, I saw a piece in I think it was USA Today. I was on the road. I saw it in an airport maybe a year ago, that the drug that is most commonly used along with marijuana is alcohol. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I'm not a drinker anymore. I used to be a bartender, and so I don't like mixing them at all. A lot of people like myself will get pretty sick when you mix them. I would never recommend anybody use alcohol to take the edge off of too much cannabis, especially when there are better options like citicoline and CBD. CBD, the way it works with the endocannabinoid system, actually binds on the same receptor as the THC and neutralizes that too high effect. Citicoline is a supplement that you can get at GNC or on the internet, and it is an endocannabinoid blocker. So it'll take you out of that high within like 10 to 15 minutes if you need it. So if you eat a brownie and you're too high, you can take some citicoline with some citrus, like lemon water, and it will take you out of it pretty quickly.
Huh, fascinating. So if you said you can smell pot, and that will tell you by and large what effect it's going to have on you based on kind of the terpene profile. What are the smells you're looking for?
Well, I like to describe it this way. The cannabinoids are the fuel and the terpenes are the steering wheel. So the CBD, the THC, the other cannabinoids that are found in there will have a significant effect. As far as smells, I will smoke or dab all day long while I'm working because I have Crohn's disease and it kind of helps me stay neutral. I go for things that are going to keep me focused and not put me to sleep. And for me, that means citrusy kind of smelling things, lemons, tangies, anything like that.
And if somebody wanted something that would help them sleep, for example, they would go for what?
I know a lot of people like purple strains that have kind of grape or musky smells with it, but the other thing to look for is a high CBN or cannabinol, which is degraded or aged THC, and that comes in a lot of product formulations now, but CBN is the cannabinoid that actually makes you sleepy. So
I've never seen a product with CBN advertised on it. I've seen a couple where they break it out and it's always like a little tiny, 0.01% or something, but I've never actually seen, you would think that somebody would come up with and say, 3% CBN, this will put you to sleep.
A lot of the market is still naive on this, so people are just seeking THC or CBD, one or the other, and nothing else. But there are products in Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and California. Mary's Medicinals makes a CBN patch that you apply to your skin, and I've done that a few times, and it's amazing.
Wow. So what is that high like?
When I take the patch of CBN, I know I feel kind of dreamlike and floaty for about 10-15 minutes, and then I just fall asleep, and it's excellent.
Wow.
And I'm an insomniac, so I love anything that will put me to sleep.
Yeah. This product is from Mary's.
Mary's
I'm going to buy
Medicinals.
some.
Yeah, Mary's Medicinals was founded in Colorado by a woman who was already doing research on retinol and other kind of plant compounds that could be applied transdermally through patches. So when Colorado legalized cannabis, she just dug right in and started going that direction.
Wow. Smoking versus vaping.
Everybody seems to be afraid of smoking because of how it looks. And I really wish people could get past that, because what we do know about smoking marijuana is it's way safer than smoking tobacco, and we actually don't know that much bad about it. It's stinkier. Vaping is not. Vaping is relatively new, so everybody likes to think it's safer because it's not smoking. I don't know that we can actually say that yet. I think vaping is very convenient for people who have to inhale on the sly, like myself. That's usually when I will use a vaporizer. Vaporizer cartridges are some of the most popular products in cannabis dispensaries now, but as a longtime medical cannabis patient, I don't find them to be that useful.
one of the things that differentiates cocaine and heroin from coca and opium, and I have tried all four of those, I can tell you from personal experience, is that the purified versions, cocaine and heroin specifically, are very, very specific in how they affect you, and don't have, you know, like eating or smoking opium is sort of like drinking alcohol. I mean, it's this kind of broad spectrum. Just relax. It doesn't make you crazy. It doesn't get you addicted unless you do it, you know, in large quantities over a long period of time. Same thing chewing coca. I chew coca down in South America, up in the mountains there in Peru, and it's like drinking a cup of coffee. I mean, you don't feel high. You're not speed rapping. You're not doing this stuff. Whereas you try heroin and boom, you're just down. And you try cocaine and you're this is it, you know. And I'm wondering, to what extent that's not just a function of there being more concentrated versions of these drugs, but that they are concentrates that exclude a lot of the other collaborating, you know, parts. The coenzyme is the wrong word. I'm missing a word here, but you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And if when you vape, these little cartridges you screw on the end of a battery, they come preloaded with a little bit of, you know, typically a half gram of liquid. And that liquid, I mean, how much is that? I actually have seen in dispensaries some vape cartridges labeled as crude extract, right? Which I assume is their way of saying, we didn't just take out the THC and CBD. And then others are like, this is 73% CBD, 22% THC, you know, whatever. And it's like, you know, how stripped down are these purified extracts? And is this whole thing that I'm talking about even a thing?
Yeah, it is. This is something I've been looking into a lot, especially as a Crohn's patient who's had to take a lot of pharmaceutical drugs. But we have a situation where you have all these plant drugs and then patented pharmaceutical medicines. And we found time after time that those patented pharmaceutical medicines maybe aren't as effective as the whole plant. For instance, when we first isolated and synthesized THC in the 1980s in response to people with AIDS calling marijuana medical, we found that was not as effective for people, and it led to the discovery of the entourage effect in the early 1990s by Israeli researcher Dr. Raphael Meshulam, where he found that the effects of the cannabis plant were actually all of the cannabinoids, terpenes, flavonoids, all of the compounds found in this plant in conjunction with one another. I have this theory myself that pharmaceutical opiates are actually way more dangerous than just taking opium in itself, because there's probably some other mitigating
I want to testify.
Compounds in there. Oh yeah, I mean, I'm a drug guinea pig. But as far as those vaporizer cartridges and what's in them, anytime you extract cannabis, especially in a way that you're going to be putting it in a vaporizer cartridge or you're going to be dabbing it, we're removing some of those compounds. A lot of the time we're isolating out THC and CBD and then adding them back in with some other terpenes that may or may not have been meant for human ingestion, so that we can kind of customize the effects. And I don't think it's as effective at all. But we're going to find this out the hard way as people make more and more isolated pharmaceutical cannabis medicines.
In our last minute, I've read that if you eat mangoes while you're smoking dope, or if there's a whole bunch of different ways to get terpenes into your body other than smoking them or having them show up in the original pot plant. And you said, you know, they weren't intended to go together. Tell us about the mythology and the reality.
Yeah, well, I mean, the terpenes themselves are found in every other plant that we ingest. Like, the reason cannabis smells like lemons or pine trees is because it contains the same terpenes as lemons or pine trees. And so maybe I'm a little off on your question about the mythology.
Well, is it in fact a good thing to try to consume terpene-rich foods like mangoes or lemons along with your pot?
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing about mangoes in particular is that mangoes have a terpene called myrcene in them. And myrcene is known to kind of counter a lot of the anxiety or other paranoia in there. And it also kind of helps ride the THC effect to more enjoyment, which is why a lot of people will do that. It's the same thing as taking a lot of other drugs and maybe drinking orange juice or lemon juice. I know I used to do that with ecstasy when I was younger, and it kind of gives you more of an effect because of those terpenes carrying things across the blood-brain barrier. And
it's not just the sugar, it's actually the terpenes.
No, it's the terpenes.
That's fascinating. Angela Baca, she is a freelance writer and editor. You can tweet her at Angela Baca, B-A-C-C-A. Angela, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
It's great talking to you. Great meeting you, having you in the studio.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We'll be right back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this. And welcome back. Let's see here. Veritas in Greenville, Mississippi. Hey, Veritas, thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today?
What's on my mind today is on September the 1st, the VA cut off my pension and wouldn't tell me absolutely nothing as to the reason why they did that.
Oh, my.
And I was told that they cut it off lots of veterans benefits. It's what the nurse advocate told me.
Mm-hmm.
And she said there was something personal going on over there at that Veterans Affairs office.
I'm sorry, I don't know anything about this, Veritas. Have you talked with any of the veterans groups?
The veteran groups don't answer the phone.
Really? If you call like Vote Vets or well, obviously the VFW and some of these groups, I'm sorry, I'm not a veteran, so I don't know all this. But aren't there groups out there specifically advocating for people like yourself who have had their benefits disrupted?
You know what? If it is, I don't know nothing about them. The only thing I was doing was contacting the VA,
right,
and complaining about this.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't seem to care.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that.
The only reason why they started paying me pension because I started getting Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, as long as I get Social Security, my pension's supposed to follow.
Oh, well, it may be that you can't get both. I mean, Reagan reformed Social Security pretty radically in 82, 83, and started taxing it. They didn't used to tax our Social Security payments. Now they're taxed. You can thank Ronald Reagan for that. And they may well have said, hey, you can't have, two different kinds of federal benefits. You can't have Social Security and a pension through the VA.
Well, at least they ought to tell us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, apparently they did by cutting you off. I mean,
Yeah, well, yeah.
That would be something to clarify. And if you find out when that happened and if that was part of the so-called Reagan reforms, I'd love to know about it. It's not a good thing, in my opinion. Veritas, thanks a lot for the call. I wish you well and hope that as you figure this out, you can get back with us. Hey, some fascinating news here. Willie Nelson, who, I started in radio in 1968 as a country western disc jockey, back then we called it country western, now it's called country music, and Willie Nelson was pretty popular then, and in fact one of the high points of my life was when Willie Nelson wrote his autobiography, Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die, and mentioned me in it. He talks about how they're driving down the street in the bus, going to a gig, and he's sitting there smoking pot and listening to Thom Hartmann on Sirius XM. And I was like, whoa, how about that? That is so cool. And so anyhow, Willie Nelson is going to headline a rally for Beto O'Rourke in Texas. And I think this is just so cool. And now we've got Republicans who are all twisted in knots because they're saying, well, Beto O'Rourke, he's got an Irish name and he's trying to pretend he's Hispanic, like Theodore Cruz. He shouldn't be using a nickname, Theodore Cruz. Really? In fact, Ted isn't even Theodore Cruz's first name. It's Raphael. Raphael Cruz versus Roberto O'Rourke. Come on. Anyhow, Beto O'Rourke is going to be a hell of a candidate. He's going to be a hell of a senator. And I hope that we're all out there helping him out and standing up with him. We'll be back. It's 22 minutes past the hour. Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's ThomHartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to ThomHartmann.com.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Since Citizens United, just 15 groups account for 75% of the $800 million in dark money spent on U.S. elections. There's a lot of talk about fascism, the old book back from the 80s, Friendly Fascism. I remember it well. And the whole idea that what fascism is the merger of corporate and state interests. That up until the 80s, that was the dictionary definition of fascism in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. I've quoted it many times. I actually have that dictionary. And who has brought us fascism, as in friendly fascism, as the corporate takeover of American life and American politics? The Supreme Court. And now with Brett Kavanaugh, the Republicans are getting ready to put a serious, confirmed fascist, as in fascism being the merger of corporate and state interests, fascism being the takeover of government by billionaires, a confirmed fascist onto the Supreme Court. And if you object to that, you might want to call your senator. I wouldn't recommend that you use the word fascist because it means different things to different people. And a lot of people who don't understand the actual meaning of the word think it means Nazis, and it doesn't. The Nazis were a death cult and continue to be, by the way. But in any case, if you're opposed to Brett Kavanaugh's nomination, give your senator a call. Give your senators. We all have two of them, unless you're in D.C. 202-224-3121 is the number for the switchboard, the congressional switchboard. Give them a call and let them know what you are thinking about. John in San Diego. Hey, John. Thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. What's on your mind?
Hey, Tom. Love your show. Long-time listener. I just wanted to comment on the cannabis section you just spoke of.
Sure.
As it relates to vaping, there's a lot of nuance to vaping. There's a lot of most people using these vape pens, which you don't really know what's in the oil. It's extracted and diluted with various chemicals like polyethylene glycol. But there's other devices on the market that just blow hot air through raw cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows you to extract it yourself, get the flavor, get the terpenes, and then you don't get the respiratory effect that you would get with the pens. These vape pens actually cause spasming of the lungs. Whereas these other devices
I've noticed.
use the hot
I've noticed some of the vape pens are using liquid carbon dioxide extracts to get away from the propylene glycol and alcohols.
It's true, but if you use a device like the Volcano or the Arizer Solo 2 or something like that uses hot air, you're getting the whole plant and you're getting a very different effect on the lungs. And there has been studies on the Volcano, and they're way better than smoking for lung health.
That is a great point. I used to do that, and now I've just been using these vape pens. I'm going to go back to doing that. Thank you, John. Thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching Free Speech TV. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Back with more of your calls and the news of the day. Right after this, it's coming up on 28 minutes past the hour. We really need to pick up this pace. We are way behind in terms of raising money to keep this network going. We got some great premiums, things that you can get and give to your conservative neighbors and friends and relatives. A sticker you can put on their car or front. Well, maybe not, but you can get creative, right? There's a lot that can be done. And this great book called We the People, Call to Take Back America, that I wrote years ago, and it's just absolutely totally relevant today. It's just an amazing book on politics and the nature and the history of American politics. Goes all the way back to the Jefferson Adams debacle from Adams' point of view. And, get a jump on Christmas, or on the holidays, whatever they may be for you. It's important that we all pitch in right now. I'm dancing my heart out here for Free Speech TV and do so every day. And if you could help out by calling 877-378-8669 and making a contribution, it would be so appreciated. It is so important that we keep this network on the air. We're in the neighborhood of hitting half of what we needed to be at for this. We're coming up on a full week here today. And I don't know how to say it other than that. It's really important to keep Free Speech TV going. I know it's important to me. I'm assuming it's important to you. And I think, frankly, it's important to the future of our country. I look at how, for example, in part, Bernie Sanders is a brilliant politician, but in part, his being on this program every Friday for 11 years introduced him to America in a way that I believe, and I've had people around Bernie tell me, really jump-started things, so that when he went out in the field in 2015, 2016, wherever he went, there were people who were going, brunch with Bernie. They recognized him. Our program has an impact in national politics. And I believe in local politics as well. All the people who've called in and said, I decided to run for city council or for just a position in the party as a result of watching your program. I didn't even know those things were available. I didn't know that, what a precinct committee person is and things like that. We're doing some good stuff here, and we need your help to do it. Amy Goodman is doing good stuff, reporting on the news. There's a bunch of great programs on Free Speech TV. And all of this is at risk if we can't hit our goals for this fund drive. And that's a serious concern. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and get one of these extraordinary goodies that you can, as I said, share with your conservative friends, neighbors, and relatives. With a $30 gift, you get the Free Speech TV mini kit. That's the vote sticker and the Free Speech TV button. With a $72 gift, you get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. An illustrated, you could call it a comic book, but it's not funny stuff. It's history. And it's not for kids. Kids can read it and get it and find it interesting, but it's really a book for adults. And great coffee table book, great bathroom book. It's divided into chapters that all stand, each one stands alone, and they're easy to read, and I think you'll find it fascinating. I think you'll love it. It's one of my favorites. With a $120 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech t-shirt kit. That is the sticker and the button, plus the Vote Free Speech TV dark gray t-shirt. These, by the way, I don't know if you've noticed over the years, but these things become collector's items. So something to think about. That's with a $120 gift. With a $240 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hoodie. These are, by the way, the clothes, Free Speech TV hoodie and the t-shirt, all, unlike the Trump paraphernalia, all made in the United States. And the hoodie kit is with a $240 gift, which can be $20 a month for a year. And you get the zip-up hoodie, and you get the bumpers, or the sticker and the button. With a $360 gift, that's $30 a month for a year, or $360 one time. You get the Vote Our Future pack, and that includes the sweatshirt and the t-shirt and the button and the sticker. That's with $30 a month, or $360. And with $480, you get all that stuff, the t-shirt, the hoodie, the bumper sticker, or the sticker. I don't think it's quite the size of a bumper sticker, but the sticker and on the button. Plus, you get a copy of my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. That's with $480 or $40 a month for a year. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and we'll take you to lunch. And you can bring along a spouse or significant other. I think we have tomorrow, I was just told we have about a dozen people showing up, and I'm not sure if that's 6 people plus spouses and partners, or if typically there's There's a few people who come alone, and there's a few people who bring someone with them. So we probably got 8 or 10 donors tomorrow coming by. I'm looking forward to it. And if you're one of them, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. So anyhow, the number 877-378-8669. Please call now. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to thomhartmann.com. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Very pleased to have Michael Moore advertising on our show for his movie Fahrenheit 11/9, which is opening on the 21st of this month, next Friday, a week from tomorrow, and it's going to be it is a great movie, and you're going to love it. Talix in New York City. Hey, Talix, what's on your mind today?
Hello?
Hey, what's up?
Hey. Hi, yes. Yeah, I wanted to talk about what seems to be happening in Syria with what's going on in Idlib and the possibility we may be seeing another alleged chemical weapons attack and the usual American retaliation. I've never heard you talk about that. I wonder, what
we were discussing this with Medea Benjamin. Either Monday of this week or Tuesday of this week. Okay, thank you, Sean. And it looks like they're isolating, that the Syrian government has isolated this town, and they are doing basically the same thing that the Saudi government is doing with regard to Yemen. And I think you could argue to some extent that the Israeli government is doing with regard to the Palestinians in Gaza, and that is saying there's a few bad people in here, so we're going to declare everybody bad, and we're going to impose punishment, and in this case, brutal, like death as the punishment on everybody, and who's in the area. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, also the possibility we may be seeing, a false flag attack from the militants, and then getting us to strike at Syria and maybe even start a war with the Russians.
Right. Well, that wouldn't be that difficult. I mean, you got John Bolton, who published an op-ed. I believe it was in the Washington Post.
Right.
Might have been the New York Times.
Seymour Hersh, of course, had his famous article where he exposed the Turkish involvement in 2013.
Yeah.
And that why Obama didn't attack them.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a complex situation, and one that is basically, bottom line, not good for America, and something that we need to be paying attention to, and we don't. Tragically, our media just generally doesn't cover this kind of stuff. Talix, thanks for the call. It's noted. It's on my radar screen. It's on a lot of other radar screens. I wanted to talk about a couple of other things here, if I can, to get this in right now, and then I'll pick up your calls in a little bit. Brett Kavanaugh. I mentioned this a couple days ago, but this has not been picked up by the corporate media at all. Jennifer Cohen, Jenny Cohen 1, tweeting about this. Brett Kavanaugh was the guy who woke up George W. Bush. Let me just step you to the Wayback Machine. Terry Schiavo was brain dead. There was, her body was still functioning. They were keeping her alive with a feeding tube that they had run through a hole in her stomach into her stomach, a hole through her abdomen into her stomach to keep her alive. She was breathing okay. Her eyes were open and moving around, but there was nobody there. There was literally nobody there. They did brain scans, and there was just no activity. She was dead outside of the fact that her heart was still beating, and in Florida. And her husband, in acceding to her request, her wish, which she had been explicit about to him and to others, her husband wanted to do what she had said she would want, which is, if I'm ever a vegetable, pull the plug on me. And by the way, for the record, I agree. If I'm ever a vegetable, Louise, please pull a plug on me. So Terry Schiavo's husband was going to pull a plug on her, and one of these so-called right to life groups, one of these, hysterical, oh my God, we can't have, people having the plug pulled on them when they're dead. It seems so strange. But anyhow, they decided to make a big deal out of it. And one of the fundamentalist radical right groups, and I'm not sure which one it was, it might have been the Family Research Council, but whatever it was one of these white right wing, by the way, groups that was all upset about this. And they turned this into a cause célèbre. They turned this into a big deal nationwide. And you had politicians lining up for and against it and all this kind of stuff. And Congress passed this legislation saying, here it is. We've got, let's stop Terry Schiavo's husband from pulling the plug on her. Let's stop the hospital from pulling the plug on her. And so, what happened? What came out of that? Well, it's fairly straightforward, I think. George W. Bush decided to capitalize on this too. And hopped on a plane and flew to Washington, D.C. from Crawford, Texas, just to sign this legislation. And, the night that all this was set up, Brett Kavanaugh apparently woke him up and said, do it. And this was in March of 2005. And it was so cynical and it was so crass. And Brett Kavanaugh was right in the middle of this thing. He worked with Jeb Bush and George W. Bush to try to get Bush v. Gore before the United States Supreme Court. He was one of the lawyers. Him and John Roberts were two of the lawyers who worked on Bush v. Gore to try to steal an election for George W. Bush and against Al Gore. And, of all weird things, the argument that was made before the Supreme Court was, if you allow this to go forward, if you allow the vote to be counted in Florida, it's going to cause irreparable harm to George W. Bush, to the plaintiff. And, that's actually how the court ruled. 5-4. All these 5-4 decisions. Meanwhile, our economy, I think it's important for us to every now and then, kind of wake up and look around and say, what the heck is going on with the economy? Existing home sales dropped for the 4th consecutive month last month. This is from the fxstreet.com website. Existing home sales have started to soften. Now, when this happened in 2007, there were a lot of us who were very concerned about it. I was doing local radio here on KPOJ in Portland, in addition to my national show, and we had an advertiser who was a mortgage company that since went out of business, and they were offering these subprime loans. And when the market went soft, I was looking at this and I said, I can't read these ads anymore. I'm not going to do it. And so they had to have somebody else pre-record the ads to play on the television or on the radio station. And it was because I thought this is the beginning of what could be, well, a disaster. And it turned out I was right. And now we're seeing 4 months in a row that home sales have softened, and in many parts of the country, home prices are starting to drop. New home sales, that was existing home sales, used houses, right? Somebody, buying not a new house, a newly built house, but a house from somebody else. New home sales have also slipped, and they also downward revised the previous months. And, there is a strong connection between housing and the economy. We see this. The durable goods orders for July fell by more than expected. Durable goods is like, washing machines and cars and, things that have a long lifespan, dishwashers, sinks, and they're falling. And that That's an indication that people are concerned about what might be coming. So I just wanted to put that on your radar screen. Nicole in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hey, Nicole. Thanks for listening to Sirius XM. What's up?
Hi, Tom. I don't know if you already discussed this, but I was just reading earlier the tweet from, someone actually put on Twitter that Dianne Feinstein related a matter regarding Kavanaugh to federal investigators.
Yes, there was a letter written by apparently a woman and it was addressed to a Democratic member of the House of Representatives from California. And I'm sorry, I don't have her name right in front of me right now. And she passed it along to Dianne Feinstein, who shared it with Chuck Grassley and called the FBI. And we don't know what's in that letter. We don't know if it's an allegation against Kavanaugh or if it's a threat. I would assume if it was a threat, it would not have been handled this way. It just would have gone straight to the FBI. And whether it's a woman alleging that he harmed her in some way or that he was, who knows? I mean, it's all speculation right now. But I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, Nicole?
Yeah, what she said. I mean, what the tweet was that, and again, it's not from her, but from someone who's reporting that she said was that whoever referred this information to her, she said that she heard from a person who wanted to remain private,
right?
And that she would honor that request, but that she referred the matter further to federal investigators. So, I'm curious. I don't know what it is, but
this is why the Republic
has so many skeletons in his closet. I can't believe it's just moving forward.
Exactly right.
Susan Collins needs a reason. I don't know what else she's looking for.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And in fact, this is why the Republicans are pushing this nomination so hard and so fast. They've only released a little less than 10% of all the documents having to do with Kavanaugh's work and service over the years, particularly in the Bush administration. Virtually none of that. And that's not an accident. There are reasons for that. And this is why they've called for a vote for next week, because they want to get it off their table before more stuff comes out. So. It would be interesting if if a number of people were to call 202-224-3121, ask for Dianne Feinstein's office and say, please make that letter public. We'd like to know. You can redact the woman's name. That's fine. But let's find out what's going on.
Great idea. Thank you for saying that.
Sure. Thank you.
We'll do that.
Okay. Thank you, Nicole. You can also tweet her, by the way. Senator Feinstein has a very active Twitter feed. Lonnie in Tennessee, you like Brett Kavanaugh?
I like him much.
Why?
I really like him.
Why?
Why? Because he's an honest man.
How do you know?
Well, everything they said about him is honest.
Okay, so he lied to Congress back in 2002 and 2004. Yes, he did. He received these documents from Manuel Miranda that were stolen from the Democrats.
No.
I have seen the emails with Kavanaugh's name on them referring to these stolen documents, and you would have too, Lonnie, if you had bothered to look. And then he lied about that to Dick Durbin's face.
Well,
how can you call him an honest man when he lies? And it's demonstrable.
Dick Durbin can't even straighten out the state of Illinois.
Durbin's job is not to straighten out the state of Illinois; it's to represent the state of Illinois in the United States Senate.
No, they're a bunch of crooks. That's all. I don't like them.
But you like Brett Kavanaugh, who is the kingmaker of the crooks.
Man, he's an honest man.
What evidence do you have of that?
Well, all that I have seen of him has been honest.
What? Name one thing.
Well, he's been honest in all of the courts.
Name one thing.
Well, okay. Goodbye.
All right. Thank you, Lonnie. Amazing. Greg in Toledo, Ohio. Hey, Greg, what's up?
Hi, nice to talk with you. You have a great program.
Thank you.
I kind of have a question.
Hey, Greg, let me put you on hold. I just realized I'm just about to hit a break here, and it's a hard break. I can't stop it. It's going to hit us in 2 seconds. So let me pick you up on the other side of the break, okay? Can you stick around for 4 minutes? Because you're listening on Sirius XM. We'll hit the break, and we'll be back with you in 4 minutes. Greg, thank you so much for the call. We'll be right back. It is 48 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Occupying the media 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. It's talk media for the sane among us. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
The news of the day right after this. So I want to tell you another story that concerns me tremendously. This is by Pam and Russ Martins. They run a website called wallstreetparade.com. And the headline is, "The chorus grows for the Fed to buy stocks in the next Wall Street crisis." And, you know, it's real interesting. The Troubled Asset Relief Program is a highly sanitized way of saying to the American people, we're going to take your tax dollars, or the Fed is going to create money out of thin air, or both, and we're going to use those dollars to buy troubled assets that the banks are holding. So the banks are holding $1 trillion worth of worthless mortgages, and we're going to buy them from the banks so the banks don't go out of business. Now, any other business, you'd say, you know, if Apple had made some horrible design mistake and come out with an iPhone that didn't actually work, and they had 1 million of them sitting in a warehouse in China, do you think that our tax dollars should buy those phones from Apple and destroy them so that Apple could get on with their business? Or if a pharmaceutical company that manufactures drugs in the United States and in India had a big batch of drugs that they made here in the U.S. that didn't work or that went bad in the manufacturing process, should you and I buy it from them at full retail in order to keep that in pharmaceutical company from being hurt? Well, no. Just the idea is crazy. But this is exactly what we did with the banks. We went to the banks and we said, oh, you're sitting on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of phony baloney mortgages that you yourself sold in the first place. I mean, you got people to sign up for these mortgages knowing that they could never pay for them because you got the fee on the front end for each one of them. And now you're sitting on these things on your balance sheet. These are troubled assets. We will borrow $1 trillion from our taxpayers, and we will buy these assets, these bad mortgages, from you. So that's what we did in 2007 with TARP 1 and TARP 2. This was George W. Bush's response to the great Bush crash of 2008. This was his response, was TARP. Well, now there's a group of people, led by J.P. Morgan Chase, the bank, that's saying, you know, banks aren't holding so many bad mortgages anymore, but banks are now holding huge piles of stock in publicly traded companies. And if the stock market falls, the banks are going to be in big trouble. Now, obviously, the easy answer is, banks, sell your stock now. But the banks don't want to do that. They think, hey, it might go up another 3 or 4 points. We're greedy after all. That's why we're banks. And so what are they saying? Well, let me read you this quote from J.P. Morgan. This is from a senior analyst at the bank, Marko Klonovic. It remains to be seen how government and central banks will respond in the scenario of a great liquidity crisis. If the standard interest rate cutting and bond purchases do not suffice, central banks may more explicitly target asset prices, e.g. equities. Equities is the word bankers use to say stocks. This may be controversial in light of the potential impact of central bank actions in driving inequality between asset owners and labor. In other words, we're going to bail out the rich guys who have bad investments, but we're not going to bail out the workers. This is nuts. We'll be back. Stick around. Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to thomhartmann.com. Welcome back. Greg in Toledo, Ohio. Let's try it again, Greg. You want to talk about Kavanaugh?
Sure, yeah. It's actually a question. Let's assume, for example, that a judge or a medical examiner or attorney or whatever is ultimately found guilty of conspiracy and fraud and so forth. Basically what happens is all of their decisions that they have ever made are looked back on. And in fact, many of them are thrown out. And we see this over and over again with innocent projects and so forth.
Right.
So my question is kind of a legal question. If we find that the current unindicted co-conspirator in the White House becomes an indicted co-conspirator, that he bought the election with Russia and with whatever else, why then do we just assume or should assume that his appointment to the Supreme Court should stay?
Because there's no provision for the rescission of that in the Constitution. There's no constitutional basis for undoing things that an illegitimate. In fact, there's no definition of illegitimate presidency in the Constitution. They did not contemplate the possibility that the American people would be so stupid that they would elect somebody who is a shill for a foreign government, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's a problem. And I think if, in fact, this goes through and the unindicted co-conspirator is finally indicted, I think the Congress, hopefully Democratic Congress, needs to then reconsider the Constitution of the Supreme Court. It wasn't always 9. It's been all over the place. Yeah. And I think we need to reconsider the number on the court.
Yeah,
but,
I'm totally with you.
Thank you so much for what you do.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot, Greg. Great to hear from you. Jerry in Maine. Jerry, we just have a little less than a minute here before the end of the show. Quick one?
Yes, quickly. How is a regular thinking person supposed to think it's any different that a liberal like Bruce gets 92 votes, which obviously the Republicans are crossing over and adding to the Democrats? And how are we supposed to think it's fair that we can't pick up the only few Democrats that we can are the ones in the states where Trump literally trounced the people there? How is that not unfair?
Jerry, I'm sorry, we're out of time. I don't really understand the question, and I'm not sure who Bruce is. But tomorrow's another day, right? In fact, tomorrow's Anything Goes Friday, so we can take that and pretty much any other topic you want and really dig into it. I'm frankly surprised more people didn't call in with their cannabis experiences. Maybe I should have set that up by saying, hey, have you had a good experience or a bad experience with medical or recreational pot? Give us a shout. Of course, you can do that tomorrow. And don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. Democracy really, the whole idea of democracy is the demos. It's us, right? The people. So get out there, get active, tag, you're it. We'll see you tomorrow for Anything Goes Friday.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
From United Nations headquarters